Oh, what it do, my brothers? How y'all doing on this auspicious occasion, as it were? Do, do. 1 second. Nick said 10 o'clock Central, so should be any minute. Realpolitik. Hmm. Indeed, indeed. Ah, well, I'll tell you what. What's going on, fellas? Um, yeah, Nick said he would be on at 11 Eastern time or 10 Central time, but taking a last second tweak. Bear with me. uh, yeah, I've still yet to automate everything where it's just one click start. I'm doing the research now, figuring out how I have a stream deck, but you still have to learn scripting because I want it to be like when I press a button, it opens all the applications at once, and all the applications, the windows, are then placed in their exact spot, per the usual. Because I use one like 40-inch display for all my streaming shit, and I use my built-in display for like chats and shit and settings like system settings. But I would like it so that if when I press one button, my display, the big display, just fills up everything right where I have it. All the streaming platforms are automatically live. I mean, dude, that would be such a dream. And then also, what's going on there, Joseph? I'm glad to have you on board. And then also, I'd like it to be a one-touch shutdown because I don't know if you guys hang around for, while I'm shutting it down, but it takes a good minute and a half because there's delays involved. So it takes like a good minute and a half to close down everything, make sure that the recorded, because I record the streams every night, make sure all that stuff is stored properly. It's a bit of a chore, but you know, oh well. It could be worse. Could be worse. I just like I'm into computers too, and I've never really been big on coding and scripting and stuff, but as of late, it's just really attractive. It seems really badass to have that kind of control over processes on my computer. I don't know. I, I didn't used to care, but for some reason I do now. What are you gonna do, right? Anyway, man, I suppose today there really wasn't all that much going on. I don't know. Did you guys see anything in particular that caught your attention? This well, actually, I was thinking just a little bit ago. think I was watching last night's stream, playing half for sure. I was watching last night's stream, and it occurred to me that I like Nick. I watch Nick's shows, but it occurred to me as time goes on, the gulf between us. Like eventually, I'm not gonna be. He's not gonna be I'm not gonna be following anybody. At some point, I'm just gonna be myself. Like right now I'm watching Nick because he seems, this lane that he's in, I like it. And he's been thinking about it much longer than I have in from his perspective. And it just occurred to me that at some point it'll be like the space shuttle with those big the booster rockets that fall away. It'll be like that. At some point I will jettison. I might still be a fan. I don't see myself not liking Nick, but I can see myself no longer watching his show. Like, and I'm not saying that I don't like the show. I love the show, but at some point, I'm gonna strike out on my own. I would imagine because there are certain things that I just I find myself nitpicking him a little bit more, and not like in a bad way, just not in a way that I would do. And I started thinking about it, and it's like, well, if then start your own kind of a thing. It's like if you don't like it, you can always start your own. It's either shut up or put up. And I can just tell at some point, I'm gonna put up, and it may not be for years. I don't know, but I had that thought, and it was a good thought. I didn't. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think it's a good thing. At some point, I doubt, or at some point, I'm not going to be watching these shows as much. I'll probably have a show, not really watching. Although for, edits or clips, you can't help that stuff. But it's like I agree with Nick. Me and Nick, I see pretty much eye to eye with him. But his delivery, which is spectacular, I just would probably go about it a little bit differently. And I'm kind of looking forward to that day when when I feel like I could do it better, or that not necessarily that I could do it better, but I could do it differently and good enough to where it would be worth striking out on my own. Because if I didn't think I had a worthwhile outlook or a worthwhile point of view, I wouldn't even be doing this, to be honest. I mean, it's like it took me a long time before I would even stream. I always kind of just felt like, what the fuck do I know? You know, kind of a deal. What do I know? I'm nobody. I'm a fucking nobody. You know what I'm saying? Like, who the hell am I? But things have happened that made me rethink that. And, I get positive feedback, but also as you get older, you start to realize that all these authority figures or all these, just higher ups, you kind of see behind the curtain like, oh, I don't know why was I so enamored by that person before, or why was I so enamored by the office or by the station they held, and and as I get older, the more I realize that the more I realize I'm capable of, you know, there's a lot more that I'm capable of than I used to think, or than I used to think. And it's weird, you know. You go through your life thinking that, you know, you're you're just like everybody else, that you're not special. You don't really have anything special to offer until anomalies and events and occurrences happen that kind of wake you up from that. Like I remember when I was 19, 18 or 19, a friend of mine who was he had a single mom. His mom was a nurse, and he was 17. He was about to turn 18, and he was going to join the army. And I remember him pulling me away from, because we had like a clique, and we would hang out in his garage. And he pulled me aside and sat me down and was like, "Hey, man, I need your advice." I'm like, you know, you have an older brother who's like 10 years older than me or several years older than me, like 6 years older. I was like, you have a brother and your mom's a nurse. And like, why are you asking me? He's like, bro, you're the smartest guy I know. Like, he was certain of that. Or, I mean, his brother was similar to him. They weren't the smartest guys in the world. And his mom, she was smart enough to become a nurse, but she was no intellectual. None of them were. And I just remember that it just really took me unawares. I was like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, you know, I don't have anybody else to ask. I don't, he was like, I kind of see you not as a father figure, but as a mentor. And he's like, you're the smartest guy I know. He's like, I want to join the army. Do you think I should? Is it a good idea? And I was like, because at the time we had been on drugs, this, like I had actually introduced him to opiates, which ended up killing him after he got thrown out of the army because he was trying to run from that, but you can't run from yourself. When he got in the army, half the guys in his platoon were on dope themselves. And he ended up picking up needles while he was in the army because them dudes were going hard like that. And when he came back, I remember him pulling one out, and I'm like, "Whoa, dude, what the fuck?" you know. But he asked me if he should go, and I was like, "Sure, man." I was like, "I don't see how that could do you wrong," And he was the type of guy where if he hadn't, if opiates hadn't been so big at the time, he probably would have been fine. But he got court-martialed and cashiered out because of that, and it ended up killing him. His brother found him in his room, lips purple. I mean, and I do feel bad about that because I'm not so sure that he would have ever tried that shit if it wasn't for me, you know. And I can't beat myself up either because I was in the grips of an addiction, and anybody who's had an addiction knows that you aren't the same person. You're you're in there somewhere, but you're not in control. And I remember there were times where my mom would come up to me just for like some love or some attention, because I would pop in and get something to eat and then leave or whatever. And she would come in, I'd be making something in the kitchen, and she would come in happy and shit. And I would just snap and scream at her. Like, I felt so bad for doing it too. And I remember thinking in my head, 'cause she was like, what is wrong with you? Who are you? Like, what the hell?" And I was yelling it in my head like I know that this isn't me. I'm fucked up. I'm on drugs. Because opiates, they make you irritable, very irritable. And just like hearing my mom's voice just it just drove me insane when I was high, when I was really high. And man, I would just snap on her and I felt bad about it at the time and I badly wanted to tell her like, "No, I'm on drugs. I'm sorry, that I know I agree with you. I can't help it though." And it wasn't till years later that I apologized, but I just remember screaming in my head, like, I know, I can't help it. I'm fucked up on drugs, and it sucks because you do a lot of hurt to people that you feel bad for it and it's like you don't have a choice, I mean, and people think it's simple. And I remember my parents thought that I was out partying, having a good time. And, that's the way they would treat me, as if I was irresponsible, shirking, just fucking my life up not thinking about the future, just partying it up. And I remember it occurred to me, we were like at a rehab or something where we were in an office, me and my mom and my dad. And I was like, wait a second, you think I enjoy this? Like, really? You think I enjoy this? And they did. I said, you have no fucking clue what kind of hell I inhabit on a daily basis. I mean, unless you've been addicted to opiates, I don't know, or other physically addictive drugs, you won't understand. But I mean, the chase, the lifestyle, I totally believe in God and I believe in hell because I've been in hell. I know what hell is like. I know what it's like to live in existence that is worse than being dead, you know. But your subconscious or your craving for the drug is the only thing that keeps you going. And if you didn't have that, you would give a shotgun a blowjob for sure. Like, and I remember thinking that, like, man, the other utter filth, the utter griminess of that life. I mean, there were several people I knew that had girlfriends and stuff that lived in a 10, that lived in a 10. And, that was normal. They didn't think anything of it. I had a girlfriend and everything, both of them drug addicts. But I remember I had a very genteel childhood that like I was like taken aback by that. Like, what the fuck? I came into contact with new lows of life that it had never occurred to me that they existed. And it was awful. It was so awful. You know, dingy gas station bathrooms, shooting up in dingy gas station bathrooms. I mean, ugh, the people that you dealt with, so disgusting. The worst people. The people that they would screw you just as soon as look at you. If but the only reason why they don't screw you is because you're the guy that can get it for them or something. You have something they need. And these are the type of people where a lot of them anyway, if you were to shoot up and overdose right there next to them, but you only got halfway through the shot, you only press the plunger halfway down. These are the type of people that would pull the needle out of your arm and shoot the rest of it up while you're dead, while you're dying, while you're suffocating, overdosing a foot from them and not even think twice about saving your life. That's what kind of people those are. And they might be your best friend too. That's what is awful about it. That is what is terrible about it. Now me, I wasn't actually like that. I saved several people's lives because you can save someone's life if they OD. What happens is it's such a depressive opiates that they depress your nervous system so much, especially your breathing. You know, your breathing gets really shallow, and when you OD, it knocks you unconscious, so unconscious that the mechanism your brain has that wakes you up when you can't breathe or that you feel when you're underwater for too long, the panic, that isn't there anymore. So if your lungs are breathing so shallow that they can't get your mouth to open or they can't clear your esophagus, you will just and you'll just die in silence. That that thing that freaks you out and you wake up, that isn't there, that mechanism, because your nervous system is so depressed that that's not there. So you just sit there and silently, you know, you just don't breathe. You don't breathe. Your lungs, they're not strong enough. And if that happens to somebody, because if you call an ambulance, somebody's going to jail more or less, more than likely. So, but I realize, if you press on somebody's chest like CPR, if you just continue to do that, at some point they will wake up. You can breathe for somebody. Um, and this happened to a friend of mine who was a quadriplegic. That happened to him. I did that for him. Uh, and then another friend that lived in my neighborhood my whole life. I went to school with him, same grade and everything. And he overdosed right next to me. And I warned him before he did this. I was like, dude, this isn't normal stuff. This is, but he's like, bro, it's like $5 worth. What do how good could it be? I'm like, it could be. Sure as shit. Killed his ass. Or not killed him, but he OD'd. And he was like 6'4", like big football player, dude. 6'4", 250 pounds. I had to walk this son of a bitch up hotel stairs to get him into my hotel room at the time. And because I picked him up at his house and I knew his parents. And he told his parents that he was just running up to the store or something with me. And I was like, I will be goddamned if this guy dies with me. I I am not bringing my buddy's corpse back to his parents and having to tell them, yeah, he was with me and he fucking died. No way. I will I'd rather die than that. And yeah, I kept him alive. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. But that happened several times, and everybody I know that I've told this story to, I tell them you ever see somebody that's overdosed, you can breathe for them, and that has saved so many people's lives. I know this because I've spoken to nurses and stuff before, and they're like, "Yeah, it's terrible. People don't, like these drug addicts. Somebody falls out right next to them, and they panic and freak out, and then run away because they think, oh, I might go to jail. They don't even have the 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 state of mind to call an ambulance before they run and wait for the sirens. Because you call the ambulance when you hear the sirens, then you bail because the ambulance is fixing to be there in seconds. But how many people have overdosed and died because their friends weren't aware of what the issue was? I mean, and I overdosed twice. Uh, the first time it happened, I was with the same people both times. And yeah, the first time it happened, it was crazy. I remember the back of my neck started itching like pins and needles on the back of my neck, and then fell out. I don't, didn't remember anything. Once you push the plunger down, that's it. You're out. I mean, you might have like 3 or 4 seconds but you're out. And I just remember, I guess I was dreaming, and I remember thinking I was swimming or something. And then I wake up soaked in water because my cousin and my buddy were dousing me with water trying to wake me up. But I was sick. I was so sick when I woke up too because I was so high. I just fell out of the Tacoma. I think it was a Tacoma, a Forerunner. Fell out of the Forerunner and just threw up for like 5 minutes in some gravel, rolling around in gravel, throwing up. And then the second time it happened, I had that itchy feeling on the back of my neck, and I was like, "Oh shit, I'm fixing to OD." Like I was with my cousin again. I looked at him. I was like, I'm out." And sure enough, boom. I had just enough time to say, "Oh shit, I'm ODing," and I was out. And I woke up like 45 minutes later. My cousin gone, and that's what I mean. People, although he made sure I was okay, and I was his best friend was driving, and everybody else had been dropped off, and his best friend was dropping me off. And I woke up, I'm like, where is everybody? Where's my cousin? Like, oh, he's like, oh, I dropped him off. I was just thinking, that is so fucked up that my cousin did that to me. Like, fucking just bounced. He made sure I was okay, but just remember thinking, like, man, I would have never done that to my cousin. I would have never done that. But it really makes people into different, they're not, their principles, they're kind of on hold when they're junkies, more or less. And I've seen people like, I remember seeing Puerto Ricans are very steeped in that culture. And I always felt bad. I had a lot of sympathy and pity for Puerto Ricans because a lot of heroin is smuggled into the United States via Puerto Rico because they don't you don't go through customs when you fly from Puerto Rico to the US. There's no customs. So they speedboat, they sailboat, or they boat drugs to Puerto Rico to avoid customs. If you fly from anywhere, you're going to get custom hit from South America and stuff. But if you fly from Puerto Rico, no customs. So it's all you have to do is smuggle it to Puerto Rico and you're gravy. Because they don't have Coast Guard. They don't have the same stuff that we have around our or our coasts. So what they'll do is they'll smuggle it to Puerto Rico and then they'll put balloons of drugs in pregnant women because they can't scan pregnant women. They can't do it. They have to let them just go through with a pat down. So they call them fingers of heroin. The woman will either swallow them or put them up her butt, or and they do the mule thing. And what's fucked up is those fingers or those balloons. They've been known to break open. They kill those women and their child. But that's what they do. That's how they smuggle it. And they call it so Puerto Ricans were always the ones that sold it. This is before fentanyl, thank God. Fentanyl would have killed my ass. But this is back then they the Puerto Ricans that's why, because they smuggled it. So they had, and I knew people that their uncle or somebody in their family sold heroin, and they would get caught up in it and then they would start doing it because they were selling it. So I always had sympathy for the Puerto Ricans because they didn't ask to be around that shit. Like they would grow up and their uncles and shit would be selling it around them. And my buddy who lives in the football player, he got injured in high school, had a back injury. And some piece of shit doctor prescribed him morphine or Dilaudid or some shit, a pretty potent uh analgesic painkiller. And he ended up he didn't know it from he didn't know anything about pharmaceuticals. Some piece of shit doctor willy-nilly prescribed him painkillers. And I always felt bad for people that didn't get hooked on painkillers illicitly because they are hanging around pieces of shit or because they bought it from a drug dealer. It was because some cocksucking doctor, and I hate this. People always see nurses, doctors, and certain teachers as like these almost they're like benevolent human beings. It's like, dude, they're all human beings. It's stupid to put anybody on a pedestal. Nobody is benevolent. Even doctors aren't. Doctors can do wrong without realizing it. And I knew many people that were on that had serious drug addictions, lost their lives because some piece of shit doctor prescribed them Vicodin over a fucking toothache. It's it's sad, you know. I always like me, I that didn't happen to me. Everybody around me was doing it, you know, because oxycodone was like candy. I live in Florida. They called it the pill capital of the state. That's no joke. It was the fucking wild west down here when I was in 18, 19, 20, 21. The Wild West. I knew people that they called it doctor shopping. I knew people that had 10 different doctors. They had 10 appointments a month and they would get like 300 pills from each doctor. You're talking about 3,000 pills? That's enough to kill like 20,000 people, you know? And Ugh, man, that's how it was down here. It was in, and when they say that Florida uh made up like 80% of the pill market in the US, that's no joke. And yeah, it's because we have a lot of old people, but old people don't get prescribed painkillers because they're old. No. It was because people were gaming the system. And these crooked ass doctors, they like making money too. They like having a full lobby. And if they will give out drugs, that lobby will be full. Believe that. That lobby will be full. People will wait all fucking day to get a hold of their prescription. And it got to the point where everybody I knew had a doctor prescription because everybody knew the doctors that would give you a script if you said, "Oh, my back hurts." And or if you had any sort of a back injury in your past, all you had to do was get an MRI. You were good. And I had several friends that had that shit, but it was crazy. You know, when I first started doing them, those pills would be like $15 a pill for 30 milligram oxycodones. After like 2 years, because people had so many people had doctors, they got down to $8 a piece just for one. That was the price for one. And somebody would come to you and deliver one, like, because it was such a, the market was so Wild West. It was like a buyer's market. And then when Florida they instituted a pharmacy system where the pharmacies communicated. So if you had filled a prescription of oxycodone that month, they would see that you filled already and they wouldn't fill. But before, like, this is in 2008. They didn't have a computer system that logged this shit. You could get as many prescriptions as doctor's appointments you could go to in a month. I mean, it was wild. It was absolutely wild. And I think I know two other people that survived it out of all the people I knew. That's it. Like, I'm not even joking. Two other people, the football player in my neighborhood and uh a friend of my brother's, Billy. But and my cousins. We're the only ones. I know probably 30 other people that it killed. All white men. Every one of them white men. And, you know, I didn't realize that what I was doing was heroin until I was addicted. I didn't I didn't want to be a heroin addict. It just happened. And if I had known that it was heroin, I would have never touched it. Because, you know, who the hell wants to be a heroin addict? But I started doing these pills because everybody was doing them, and it was like I didn't do them for like a year, but all of my people I looked up to and admired were doing it. My cousin that I looked up to, and finally it wore me down after like a year, and I tried it. And the first time I tried it, I was hooked. When they say that it can hook you on one try, it can kill you on one try too. But when I did that drug the first time, I had done Xanax, had done a lot of drugs, and when I did this one, I was like, this is my drug. Like I remember sitting back in the seat and being like, oh my God, this is special. And it was that feeling like when they say recreation, what does recreation mean? You want to recreate or recreate fun that you had the day before. And I remember having those thoughts as a kid playing football in the recess. Like, man, I want to do this every day. The next
Good
day,
evening, everybody.
I
You're
remember
watching
thinking,
America First. My
I
name
want
is
to do
Nicholas
that
J.
drug
Fuentes. We have a
every
great
day.
show for you tonight. Is
There we
today
go.
Tuesday? Today's
Had a
Wednesday.
little ramble there. Sorry,
Very
fellas.
excited to be back here with you tonight on Wednesday. We have a lot to talk about tonight. Lots to get into. Big show. Our featured story, we are once again watching the imminent war in Iran. And we covered this last night. But we're going to give you some updates on what has been going on. And it's not looking good. I analyzed this a little bit last night. And we've been talking about this basically since the first U.S. strikes against Iran last June. But the difference is that now we actually have the force package in place. And so I'm sure you've seen this on Twitter. There's been even some rumors on 4chan, as always. But we now have, and this is official from Wall Street Journal, New York Times, we now have the largest force assembled off the coast of Iran in the Middle East since the invasion of Iraq in 2003. We're talking about 2 aircraft carriers, over a dozen missile destroyers. We're talking about many squadrons of attack aircraft, fighter jets, strike aircraft. And I think it is basically a certainty that something is going to happen imminently. And that is really the big question. Is it going to be something? Is it going to be nothing? I think we can establish at this point, as of today, that yes, something is going to happen. People say nothing ever happens. I think this time we're going to get something. Now, the big question is, what is that actually going to be? Of course, up to this point, it's been a question of whether the United States will act. We declined to intervene in Iran during the protest in January. But now that we have forward deployed 2 aircraft carriers, dozens of attack aircraft, now the question is, well, what is it going to look like? What's it actually going to be when we make the move? And it seems like all signs are pointing towards a weeks-long air campaign. We talked a little bit about this last night, but it's looking very likely like it will not be a ground operation, doesn't look like special forces. It may not even be what Trump has been requesting, which is a decisive confrontation. It's not going to be a once and for all strike that's going to topple the regime. But it does look like at the minimum, it is going to be a weeks-long, maybe multiple weeks-long attack in order to degrade Iran's nuclear capability and its missile capability. And it seems like this can happen at any point in the next few days. And maybe you could say at the furthest extent, it will happen within 2 weeks. That looks like roughly the timeline right now. And we're going to talk tonight all about why that is. We'll talk about the kind of force package that has been assembled, because the type of force and the amount of force is indicative of how they're going to use it. We were able to predict a little bit of what happened in Venezuela based on the number of personnel that were involved and the number of warships. And I think that similarly, we can look at the force package in the Middle East and we can make some educated guesses about what they are actually there to do and what the plan is. And then therefore, based on that, if we can determine what kind of strike it will be and the scope and scale of it, we can figure out what the Trump administration's end game is. What is the actual goal here? because that seems to be shrouded in a little bit of uncertainty as well. So we're going to talk all about that tonight. We're going to break it down. We're going to look at the numbers. We're going to look at the types of weapons in place, like I said, and we will be making some informed guesses about the timeline, about the goal, and about the mode. How's it going to play out? That'll be our main story. We're also going to look tonight at an editorial in the Wall Street Journal, which I saw tonight. Kind of a slow news day, so there's not too much going on, but I do think this is really worthy of consideration because this absolutely vindicates what I predicted about deportations a couple of years ago. And so I'm reading the Wall Street Journal today, and there's a editorial, there's an opinion piece, and it's talking about mass deportations. And we've been talking a lot about the mass deportations. We've talked about how they are not really even happening to begin with. But the mass deportations that are not happening are also grinding to a halt. Go figure. Yeah. No mass deportations, and yet they're also simultaneously grinding to a screeching halt. And we witnessed this with the withdrawal from Minneapolis.
How about that?
And the apparent change in policy from the White House, which is that they're no longer even calling it that. They're now talking about removing all of the criminal illegal aliens. Crossing into the country illegally is a crime. I guess they mean people that have committed crimes on top of that. So you cross into the country illegally, you're fine. But only if you commit a violent rape or a murder, well, now you're going to be deported.
Yeah,
this is an Obama-era policy, but this has now taken the place of mass deportations. In any case, we have talked about the pushback from the media. We have talked about the pressure from the Republicans, actually, from the Republican Party and from the conference in Congress because of the upcoming midterms. We talked about the government shutdown on Monday. But here's the angle that a lot of people are not focusing on. It is the economic angle. Where is the real pressure coming from against mass deportations?
From the business class.
It's an open secret. The real pressure against mass deportations is coming from the Chamber of Commerce.
Absolutely.
It is coming from the business interests. It is coming from Wall Street.
They're siding with the business.
And I said this in 2024. The strongest evidence, or maybe the strongest predictor of whether you will get deportations actually has nothing to do with any of the rhetoric surrounding the deportations. People talk about whether it's humane.
At some point, we're just going to have to bite the bullet and accept an economic downturn. Like, there is no getting around it. We will require austerity measures to get out of the shit creek that we're in. We're up shit creek. And I just wish we would bite the bullet now.
And whether it's cruel. People talk about whether it's feasible or whether it's impractical. But the number one indicator, the number one predictor, how you knew you were not going to get deportations is because of the effect on the economy. Because of the effect on spending, on labor, on wages, and ultimately then on the effect on profits for Wall Street. And so I said back in 2024, the reason you're not going to get mass deportations is because the big businesses don't want this to happen. The big businesses employ the illegal immigrants, and those illegal immigrants spend their money, which keeps the big businesses going. And big business profits from illegal immigration, to put it succinctly.
I wish we would put a tax on remittances. A lot less people would be here. They'd start going the fuck home if we took a chunk of their remittance and money from the Indians.
And so there's a big editorial in the Wall Street Journal that says, do not do mass deportations. Why? Because it will hurt the economy. And so we'll read through this editorial. This spells it out as simply as it can possibly be said. And a lot of people think about politics and talk about politics. And for a lot of people, this is based on sentiment and this is based on vibes. I remember in the beginning of 2025, people were having this discussion. Will there be mass deportations? Do you think Trump is going to do it? And people said, I don't know. I think he will. I think he won't.
Nope.
Maybe. I feel like he's going to do it. And this gets to the structural analysis of how power works in the country. We've been talking about this. You need to understand the anatomy of our power structure, where the true seat of power resides.
In Israel.
And once you begin to understand this, once you begin to think about that category, that subject, you realize how silly it is to talk with all these other kinds of words and phrases and sentiment. People say, I think Trump wants to do mass deportations. These kinds of words don't actually have any meaning. I think he's gonna. I think he won't. I think he wants it. Stephen Miller is autistically fixated on deportations. This is not political science. This is not actually doing anything. When we consider political outcomes, we have to think about the political actors involved and their incentives. And so we'll get into a little bit of that tonight, and we'll talk about this editorial. But it's going to be a good show. Good to be back with you here on Ash Wednesday. Before we get into the news, I want to remind you to smash the follow button on Rumble, smash a like button, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the show.
Everybody had
Remember to check out our merch store at Fuentes.store. We have hats, sweatshirts, t-shirts.
Oh, man.
We got the Epstein quarter zip still. We're probably going to get rid of it soon. Not because of any pressure or anything like that, but I don't know. I feel like it's going out of season. So get it while you can. Epstein quarter zip. You heard it here first. Limited time only. Epstein quarter zip, Fuentes.store. Check it out. Become a Plus subscriber. If you really love the show, you want to support it. So many people are obsessed with the show, and they're subscribed on Rumble, but they're not subscribed on the website. Well, what the fuck kind of fan are you? You watch this show for free every night?
Yep.
You tune in, you demand more content, more energy,
I don't demand
more
shit
topics, more stuff. Hey, well, when are you going to chip in? You want to be a super fan? Go to AmericaFirst.plus.
Actually.
$15 a month.
I'm good on that.
It's only $15 a month. That's not a lot of money. How much is Netflix? How much are you paying the Jews at Netflix?
Either.
$15 a month just to keep the lights on over here.
Bro, I have 1,000
Okay, just for our Lenten fast, just for the fish sandwiches, pepper and egg sandwiches.
I use jelly.
Doesn't grow on trees around here. AmericaFirst.plus, $15 a month, you get the archive. $100 a month, you get to be in the group chat. That's for the high rollers. That's for the rich people. I don't want to see any mouth-breathing, impoverished people. I don't want to see unemployed people. $100 a month, and you get to be in the group chat with me. All the high rollers and the big nigga. And I was in there all day today dropping voice messages. I was talking about a lot of different stuff in there today. I'm always in there. So anybody will tell you the testimonials are very positive. I'm basically doing a second show for the rich. It's the most rewarding work that I do. You know, I do this show and it's okay, but really the most rewarding and fulfilling work that I do is when I do the show for the rich. Because I know they appreciate it more because they're smarter. But that's AmericaFirst.plus. We're going to get into it. We're going to dive into it. There's not too much. Usually I like to stall a little bit and procrastinate, but there's literally nothing else going on. I don't think there's even one other thing going on in the news to even talk about other than the situation with Iran. Here's what I will say. Okay, here's one thing that I just remembered. What is absolutely amazing and truly shocking, I guess I shouldn't be surprised or shocked by anything at this point, but you have to think about where we are, and we're going to get into this a little bit later. But like I said, tonight we're going to get into this military buildup in Iran. We'll get to all the details. Consider where we are, though. Take a step back and think about it. We are on our way to bombing Iran a second time. I can't get over this. I feel like everybody has accepted it. I feel like everybody looks at the situation and just says, yeah, I guess that's just where we are now. I really still have a hard time getting over it. Because if you are an OG Trump supporter, if you were there in 2015, 2016, if you were there for the original MAGA America First, opposing the Iraq war was like one of the central planks. That was like one of the number one staples of the MAGA movement. That is the basis upon which Trump was attacking Jeb Bush, who was at one time the front runner for the Republican nomination a long time ago. And so it's truly amazing that 10 years later, on the other side of all of these battles, this struggle, it is truly unthinkable that we are now literally repeating the exact same thing. We talked about it a little bit last night. What was the war in Iraq? Well, for starters, it was a war for Israel. This is one of Israel's enemies, not really a major enemy of ours. At least they don't threaten us. It was, not only that, a regime change war. And these are very messy because you change the regime, and if you don't have a replacement government, then you break it, you buy it. You either have to come in and stabilize the country, and that's very expensive and time-consuming and deadly. Otherwise, you get a failed state like Libya, and you're back to square one. It becomes a springboard for terrorism, like was the case with ISIS. So it's a regime change war, and this has a very bad track record throughout history. Thirdly, and this is maybe the richest part of it, it was sold to us under the false pretext about weapons of mass destruction. Remember? They said it's nuclear weapons. That's why it's urgent. We have to intervene. And this is literally the exact same thing. It's a war for Israel against a country that does not threaten us. It's a regime change war. This one way more ambitious, actually. Way more ambitious. Iran is geographically bigger, more populous, bigger military, stronger government. It's a much bigger undertaking in literally every quantifiable way. And once again, it's literally the same story. It's actually the exact same story, which is they're killing their own people. They have a weapons of mass destruction program. They're this tyrannical pariah state in the Middle East. It's the exact same story, and it's truly amazing. Now, here's the point. I'm not just restating what I said last night. What's truly remarkable is that in spite of this, this should be as cut and dry and open and shut and black and white as it could possibly be. In 2015, Trump said the war in Iraq was a mistake. They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There weren't any. We spent all this money. We don't even have it. But like that was the story in 15. Now he's doing the exact same thing. He's doing the opposite of that. The literal opposite, as I've just demonstrated. The war which he once criticized, he's now selling. Now here's the amazing thing. As black and white as this is, you still have, and I have seen it on my timeline all week, hundreds, if not thousands, of pro-Trump shills on Twitter that are supporting this. How is it possible? I tweeted this today. I said, if we get a war with Iran, forget it. I'm not voting in 26. I'm not voting for any member of this cabinet in 28, and nobody else should either. Why would we vote for the party that brings us Iraq 2? Not only is that a stupid idea, but it's also actually a complete betrayal of what this entire movement is about. So I put on Twitter today, I said, if we get this second Iran strike, if we're in a war with Iran, what's even the proposition? Just forget it. I won't vote for it. I won't vote for it in the midterms. I'm not going to vote for the vice president and secretary of state that have given this to us. And that's what they want the ticket to be, is Vance and Rubio. War in Iran brought to you by Vance and Rubio. Now get on board and vote for them in 28. So I put this on Twitter and literally go look at my replies. Go look at the replies, look at the top replies by likes, look at the quote tweets. And there are no shortage of pro-Trump accounts, some of them boomers, some of them even Zoomers, and they're saying, well, I trust Trump. One guy says, I voted for Trump to put America first. If he thinks we should go to war with Iran, then we should go to war with Iran. This is the discourse. This is what's being said. This is what I see in my replies. You're a Democrat plant. How could you say that? And this vindicates what I said about Trump in 24. Herein lies the problem with the Trump victory. And I will keep saying this because it is true. The problem with Trump at this point is that whatever he does, no matter what it is, a significant percentage of middle American radicals will support it. Maybe most of them, maybe all of them. It doesn't matter what Trump does, what he says. It could be a complete betrayal of his own promises, of his own movement, of everything. It doesn't matter. Cover up the Epstein files. Go to war with Iran. Give up on mass deportations. 70% of the GOP base will defend it because it's him. That's the danger. And suddenly you go from a country which is primed to be radicalized. It's primed for right-wing populism. It's primed for an America First movement. And all of a sudden, now that Trump is thrust into the White House, now all of that revolutionary fervor is deflated. If Trump is doing it, they will eat it up. And that would not be true in the alternative case. And what I mean by that is, had Kamala won, let's say for the sake of example, she would be bringing us to war in Iran as well, without a doubt. The Israelis would be pushing her. The same interests would be pushing her. But if Kamala was bringing us to war in Iran, would any Republican support it? Not even Trump would support it. Not even Trump himself would support it. Trump would be on Truth Social, or I guess he would be in prison, but Trump would be against it. 100% of Republicans would be against it.
He's right.
Certainly, National Review would be cheering it on. They would say, today is the day Kamala became the president, when she bombed Iran. But you know that the right-wing populists, the majority of them, almost to a man, would be saying, wow, this is the deep state. This is the Clinton-Kamala machine. They just want endless wars. If she didn't release the Epstein files, they would be outraged. It'd be MAGA night at the White House. And that is the difference. Now, hear me out here. A lot of people are going to watch this clip, mark my words, and they're going to say, wow, he wanted Kamala to win. Oh, wow. This guy's a Democrat. He can't let it go. He seriously thinks Kamala should have won. There would have been 3 million more illegals here by now. People are going to say that. The reason I am telling you this, and by the way, you know this is a fact. However this makes you feel, whatever the implications of this might be, you know this is a fact. What I am telling you is a fact. That much is indisputable. If Trump pushes something, 80% of Republicans will support it no matter what it is, even if it's a war with Iran. If Kamala did the exact same thing, 80% of Republicans would be against it. That is a fact. You cannot dispute this. When Trump brings us to war in Iran, as he did last June, 70, 80% Republicans supported it. If Biden or Harris did it, they would be against it. You may not like the implications of this. It might make you uncomfortable, but that is true. And what does that tell you? It tells you something about the psychology and the game theory of voting for Republicans. We have this idea in our heads that we have to vote for the least bad option. We have to vote for the better option. You're given two choices. We have to vote for the one that is the least bad, and that's always the right play. The Democrats are going to be measurably worse, so we got to vote for the alternative because there's only two choices. But this is actually a lie, because time actually goes on after the election. And so you might think, well, we have a choice of Republican and Democrat in this election, and who are you with? And you might say, well, I don't like either of them. And people are going to say, well, that's a vote for the other side. But time goes on. Somebody gets elected, and then there are second-order consequences. You see? There are actually many permutations. There are trees of possibilities. You understand? So it's not just we get one or the other. Whether we get one or the other and how we get one or the other actually has ramifications. There are reactions to this. There are other dominoes that fall. Here's the point. If in every single cycle you say, oh, well, hold our nose, vote for the lesser two evils. Oh, well, vote for the lesser. Oh, well, vote for the least bad option. If you do that every time, you're never going to get anything different. But if one time you say, I'm not going to vote for that, and then Kamala has the bad war with Iran, she has to cover up the Epstein files, whatever, then maybe it changes the outcome of what type of option you get on the right, what the offering will be in the next cycle. You see? So that all of this is to say, if you're voting for something that is against your interest, how does that take us to a place where we ever get what we want? If Trump is telling us we're going to war with Iran and we vote for this and we affirm this and we reward this, then what do you think we're going to get 4 years from then? Well, we're not going to be happy. And what do you think happens when we vote for that? Again, what do you think will happen 4 years from that point? You're not going to be happy again. And this is the game that we play every 2 years, every 4 years, by rewarding this, by incentivizing this, by affirming this. You're going to get more of it. And this is the issue that Trump creates. It's that the GOP, I said this the other night, they're sucking all the resources, support as the rallying point for opposition to the left, or under Trump as the rallying point for populist opposition to the entire establishment. It is preventing any other option from coming to the fore. And in some ways, you could say it's actually re-entrenching the establishment, because now that Trump is in office, now people support this stuff. If Kamala had won the election, let's say some things that we know to be true. No Republican would think it was a fair election. Actually, most Americans would say that Kamala has no legitimacy because she never even won a primary on the Democrat side. She would be stuck with the crisis in the Middle East, the crisis in Ukraine, an economic catastrophe. Like, all of this is true. And in 2028, who knows what could have happened? We just don't know. It's a big question mark. But here's what we do know now. Now that Trump is in office and he's doing all these things, war in Iran, covering up the Epstein files, a lot of Republicans are going to support it. He's deeply unpopular with the majority of the country. They're blaming all of this on him, and now he has soured immigration enforcement for everybody. He's pissed off the left, alienated the middle, and in 2028, the initiative's going to be with the other side. Like, this is how you got to think about these things. So I see these young people on Twitter, and they're saying, well, Trump is supporting war in Iran, so I support it too. And I'm thinking, this is maybe the entire conceit of MAGA. MAGA is a handshake between the establishment and the rubes. What happened to us? What happened to you guys? In 2016, we were going to burn it all down. In 2016, we were saying, we need an outsider, we need a businessman, we need someone that's going to destroy the establishment of both parties, the globalists, the banks, the special interests. What the fuck happened? Here we are 10 years later, and the logic of Trump Republicans is vote for every Republican no matter what. Vote for Lindsey Graham, vote for Kevin McCarthy, vote for Ronna McDaniel, vote for the RNC, vote for war in Iran. We don't care if we build a wall or have mass deportations. The entire conceit of MAGA was to get a nation of people that were ready to revolt and get them back onto the plantation. A nation of people that were unreasonable, thought the elections were rigged, thought they were being screwed by free trade, mass immigration, foreign wars. They were ready to burn it all down and get them back onto the plantation, being dutiful Republican voters and accepting all the compromises that came with that. And that's actually a perfect segue into our first story, which is about this editorial from the Wall Street Journal. And like I said, I'm reading the Journal today. And for those that don't know, the Wall Street Journal is owned by Rupert Murdoch, who is a super Zionist and a spook. He got his citizenship from the Reagan administration, working with the intelligence agencies, building satellites, owner of Fox News, New York Post, friend of Netanyahu. And his paper, Wall Street Journal, is like the mouthpiece of the Chamber of Commerce, of the business interest. And there's a very interesting article today in the Wall Street Journal. It's an editorial, and it talks about the mass deportations. And like I said at the top of the show, there has been so much said about mass deportations from a cultural and political lens. When we think about immigration, what we really think about is a cultural social issue. We think about a largely white majority, an increasingly small white majority, that is frustrated with the influx of immigrants who have a different culture, speak a different language, have created this underclass lifestyle where they're dependent on welfare, where they never assimilate, and where they're actually changing the texture of life of most cities in America because of these ethnic enclaves they're creating. They're browning America. And this is how we typically think about it. And so when we think about illegal immigration, we think about issues of society. Should these people stay in our country? Are they contributing? Are they good people? Are they real Americans? What does it mean to be American? Aren't we all immigrants? And what does it mean to be an immigrant? What's the difference between a settler and an economic migrant? These are the types of conversations that we have. And then there's also a political conversation. Well, they're all going to vote Democrat. And the Democrats want to amnesty them because they're a fixture of the Democrat machine politics. And people say the Democrats are the party of the marginalized and the racial and ethnic minorities and so on and so forth. And we've talked about these angles throughout the past year. We've talked about the pushback from the radical left, how they're fighting ICE. We've talked about how the Democrat Party shielded the immigrants. We have talked about how the Democrats are resisting this legislatively, how their allies in the media are putting the pressure on the administration, how Republicans don't like that the issues in the media because of the midterms. But this is the angle which is actually the most important aspect, and it is also the one that is never talked about. Now, for context, 2 years ago, I predicted that mass deportations would not happen. It's why I didn't vote for Trump. And you can go back, all these shows are on Rumble. You can go back and watch my show from 2024, 2 years ago. And I said explicitly, I said, I will not vote for Trump because the mass deportations are never going to happen. And I knew it for a fact. And I was confident. Why was I confident? How did I know it? Well, I said it back then. It's not just about me. It's about the ironclad logic of these kinds of factors here. The reason why is because 2 years ago I said, during this election in 2024, what is the central determining factor of the success of the Democrats, or the Republicans for that matter? It's the economy. How well the incumbent party does in the election is dependent on how good the economy is doing. And what is happening in the economy in 2024? Inflation. Prices are going up. They're going up because of all the money printing. They're going up because of supply chain disruptions. They're going up for a variety of reasons. Inflation is high. That is one of the number one quantitative metrics to predict which party is going to win the election. Now, the Republicans are promising mass deportations. People are saying they're going to win the election because they're promising mass deportations. I said in 24, the reason you're not going to get mass deportations is because if you deport 10 million people, which is how many people came in under Joe Biden, What kind of impact do you think that will have on the economy? Just think about it. 10 million human beings. That is like if all the illegal immigrants in America, which is 30 million people, if all those people were removed, that would be like if Texas broke off from America and suddenly wasn't counted in the GDP, like Texas or Florida. If you deported even 10 million, that would be like if you took Chicago and its entire metropolitan area and you subtracted that from the US economy, its GDP. What would that do to the GDP numbers? What would that do to the rest of the macroeconomic metrics? Well, let's say very simply, in the first place, you remove 10 million people, that is 10 million fewer consumers. That's 10 million fewer people that are spending money on clothes, on food, on gas, on cars, on energy, on rent, on healthcare, on education, all of these things. 10 million fewer consumers. That's a huge hit. Well, what else do these 10 million people do? Many of them work. Many of them have jobs. 10 million people that are being employed under the table for low wages in construction, hospitality, food delivery, all these kinds of things that are now going to have to be replaced. Replaced by native-born workers that are going to want benefits, health care, minimum wage.
They fucking hate that.
So what does that do to labor cost? It makes it go up. You have a huge disruption. The illegals go out. Oh, no, we got to.
This kind of is we're discovering the problems with capitalism right now as we speak. Like, the profit motive has brought us so many great things, space travel, penicillin, all kinds of things that are great. But it's also destroying us as we speak. Like, these businesses are destroying our country in the name of profit motive. They're keeping progress from happening. They're keeping mass deportations from happening and a myriad of other things because they're so concerned about their profit motive. This is why an out and out free market actually isn't an unmitigated good. It has drawbacks. We're just discovering that. It's cannibalistic. It will eat us. I mean, an economy is specifically to serve us and to make our lives better. We are not a servant of our economy. It is our servant. So things got to change.
And their replacements. There's a period of adjustment. And when they find their native-born replacements, the labor cost goes up. Cost goes up. You either have to increase prices, hello, inflation, or profits go down. And profits for who? Businesses, Wall Street, the corporations that employ them. Suffice to say, you deport 10 million people, it is going to slow down the economy and it is going to increase prices. Now, you're Donald Trump in the White House. You got elected to get inflation under control. That's why Biden, or ostensibly Kamala Harris, that's why the Democrats lost the election. Because prices were going up, inflation was high, stagflation was setting in, so they get killed politically over this. Trump gets into office, he needs to bring prices down. If you're a politician, this is your imperative. You want to win in 26, you want to win in 28, you got to get the prices down or stabilize them. You got to fix the economy because if you don't, the bottom falls out from under you. If you don't fix the economy, you get a blue tsunami, and then you get impeached, and then you lose in 28. So these are the ironclad laws of politics. It's the economy, stupid. If you want to win the election, you got to have a good economy. If you want to have a good economy, you got to have growth. You got to have price stability. Inflation has to hit that target of 2%.
See, and Nick, he's even going on that the idea of what I was just talking about. Like, we have to have growth. We have to have, it's like, no, we can do without, if growth means that white people disappear in America or that we get replaced, then fuck growth. Fuck growth. I will take austerity over being wiped off the face of the earth. every
this
time.
particular time of
And
persistently
twice
high
on Sunday.
inflation, structural inflation, this is all the more important. Now factor in some other things. What else is Trump promising to do in 2024? He's promising a tariff schedule of 15% tariffs on all goods coming into the country. Now, I'm a tariff supporter, and I don't believe that tariffs are necessarily a direct tax on consumers. However, some of the cost of the tariff is ultimately borne by the consumer. Not all of it, and I think it's worth it, but some of it is. Some of the cost of the tariff is ultimately passed down. So that's already putting upward pressure on prices. Now you're going to deport 10 million people on top of that. Now you're going to deport 10 million consumers, 10 million workers, 10 million people that are employed under the table in some of these very important fields: agriculture, construction, food service, hospitality. I don't think so. Which is Trump going to choose? Deporting 10 million people, which is so politically costly, logistically not feasible for the government, would be unprecedented in terms of the effort required to do it. And it's going to destroy the economy, and they get wiped in the midterms and they get wiped in 28. Or is Trump going to gesture that he's doing deportations performatively, target the criminals, of which there are only 700,000 criminal illegal aliens, people that are already a drain on society, and say that they did mass deportations. And meanwhile, they don't fuck with the illegal immigrants that are actually working. They don't mess with those good illegals that have been here for 20 years, that are contributing to society, that are bolstering the profits of Wall Street. Well, now we have our answer. So 2025, they deport 230,000 people. It's nothing. 2026, Trump has changed the policy. He says, well, we're only going after criminal illegals. And specifically, what have they done? They have made carve-outs for the illegals with jobs. When Trump passed the big, beautiful bill last year, him and Stephen Miller and Brooke Rollins at Agriculture were devising a plan to give hundreds of thousands of H-2A visas for illegal immigrants working on farms. It was effectively an amnesty. Go look it up. This was a negotiation. They were talking about taking all these illegal immigrants working in agriculture, Rollins is Secretary of Agriculture, and they were going to grandfather them in and effectively say, well, you're here already, you're working on the farms, we're going to give you a seasonal work visa to work on the farms. And they were going to give this big carve out and shield those people from deportation, an effective amnesty. Now in 2026, I hear word from the administration, from inside, that they are not going to do job site raids for companies with more than 50 employees. When Trump went into a Hyundai factory in Georgia and they deported 300 South Koreans, Trump himself called the governor and apologized and said he wouldn't do it again. They're making carve-outs for illegal aliens. It's not zero tolerance. It's not mass deportations. They're protecting the labor. Well, now here we are, 2026. I'm going to read to you. This is an editorial from the Wall Street Journal. This is a conservative paper of record, Murdoch-owned. This is Rupert Murdoch-owned, allied with the administration, mouthpiece for the business interest. This is what Wall Street Journal has to say. It says, quote, America's strength rests on sustained capital investment, but also on a growing supply of labor. More workers means more production, consumers, and demand. Doesn't that sound great? That's what I wake up and am concerned about. I want America to just constantly have more workers, more consumption, more aggregate demand. It's never enough. And if we don't have enough white workers, let's bring in Mexican workers. Oh, not enough Mexican workers, or they're too stupid? More Chinese workers, more African workers, more refugees. And we're all going to live together, increasing aggregate demand, buying products, forever. Then we're going to go to the moon and we're going to go to Mars. Hopefully we can colonize the stars so that we can increase aggregate demand even more. I imagine a scenario where we encounter extraterrestrial life and they can also consume products and contribute to the gross domestic product. We can only hope that we can actually expand, put people on other planetary bodies. There will be more production, consumption, and demand. But anyway, so this is how it starts. It says the Trump administration's mass deportations threaten to break that virtuous cycle. Okay? It's almost beyond parody. Let me read that again. America's strength rests on its growing supply of labor. More workers means more production, consumers, and demand. The Trump administration's mass deportations threaten to break that virtuous circle. Not a vicious cycle of just constantly growing, constantly expanding the economy. No, this is a virtuous cycle of importing foreign workers to increase production and consumption and the GDP. It's a virtuous cycle that is good. It goes on. The U.S. was already slowly approaching zero labor force growth as fertility fell and the population aged. So this is an economic problem, right? People aren't getting married and having kids. And my first concern is, well, who's going to man the factories? Man, when I think about the travesty of men and women being alienated from one another, not pair bonding, not entering the sacrament of marriage and having children, our society is dying because it's devoid of love and connection and ultimately tradition and holiness. Yeah, but so who's going to man the factories? If men and women aren't getting married and having lots of kids and we don't have a ton of kids, so who's going to make the stuff? Who's going to be insurance agents? Who is going to man the gift shops? Who's going to make the missiles? Who's going to make the Stinger missiles for Ukraine if we don't have kids? This is a big problem. It says, what kept the country from this demographic disaster was immigration. The 3,000 person per day arrest quota for immigration enforcement looks like an act of economic self-sabotage. In other words, we're not having kids to man the factories. We need immigrants to make up the difference. If you start deporting illegals, we're sabotaging this plan. It says, which is, sort of the point, actually. Research from the Center for Migration Studies finds that the undocumented workforce in the United States is large and overwhelmingly employed across key sectors of the economy. Many of the 675,000 immigrants deported last year, that's a fake number, by the way, were working to build data centers, manufacturing plants, energy infrastructure, and housing. Who will take their place when the U.S. has 6 million unfilled jobs? Who will build the data centers, guys? You thought we were going to deport 30 million illegals, but wait, who's going to build the data centers so that we can have more chat GPT prompts? Who's going to build the houses for all the illegal immigrants without the illegal immigrants? Have you even thought of that? I know everybody was excited about mass deportations. Who's going to build the multifamily housing for all these immigrants if we don't have immigrant labor? Who's going to build the data centers? It goes on. Deportations impose costs on citizens too. The Peterson Institute for International Economics projected in 2024 that deporting 1.3 million workers could raise consumer prices by 1.5% within 3 years as labor shortages worsen. Deportations lead to the loss of jobs for citizens, according to the Hamilton Project. Consumption declines. The Brookings Institute estimates that the U.S. lost between $40 and $60 billion in consumer spending because of deportations. And that slows economic growth. There it is. You didn't think of this. Deport 10 million Venezuelans. Think of the hit to the GDP. As a businessman, a taxpayer, and an American with roots in this country that go back 400 years, I want to see us keep growing as we have for the past 250 years. I believe the vast majority of Americans feel the same way. The question we need to ask is, what is the ROI on our investment in ICE? This is the part that nobody wants to talk about. It is all about the economics. That's really what it is at the end of the day. Why is it that we need to bring in millions and millions and millions of immigrants? Well, you don't even really need to ask this and wonder aloud, because it's a testable hypothesis. When did immigration increase the most? 1990. It was the 1990 Immigration Act under George Bush, which basically doubled every category of immigration. Green cards, chain migration, it created H-1B, it created these visa programs, the visa lottery. Everybody knows about the 65 Hart-Celler Act. It was the 1990 Immigration Act, which actually increased the quotas, increased the limit of how many legal immigrants could arrive. And who gave us the 1990 Immigration Act? George Bush, a Republican. President George Bush gave us the 1990 Immigration Act. Chain migration, Republicans. Visa lottery, Republicans. H-1Bs, Republicans. They invented it. And who lobbied for the 1990 Immigration Act? The Chamber of Commerce, of course. The Chamber of Commerce, representing the business interests. Because they, on Wall Street, are measuring the macroeconomic trends. They're measuring the collapsing fertility rate. They're measuring the trend in terms of population growth and the future workforce and the size of people which will be beneficiaries of the government, retirees, dependents, as opposed to productive people. And so they lobbied for us to accept more Hispanics, more Asians, to do these jobs that Americans could not do because there's not enough of us, because we're not being born. And this is why then the propaganda was created. There's all sorts of political interest behind it as well, but this is just the narrative that serves as the pretext. America's gonna become a big and welcoming country, and we are a nation of immigrants, and the American dream is for everybody, and the blessings of liberty were secured not just for white men, but for people from anywhere. Why was this mythology created? So that white people would get comfortable with their replacements. White people would get comfortable with the economic migrants pouring in from the countries that still have a high fertility rate, who are going to replace the children that white people never had and we're not going to have. And what is the incentive to bring these people in? It's literally just a math equation. If you're a business and you're making things or selling a service, what's your number one cost? You got to pay rent on your factory, on your farm, or whatever. You got to pay for the land usage. You got to pay for your taxes. You got to pay for your capital, your machinery, your equipment. But probably your biggest cost is your labor. It's the people that are working there. If you're running a farm, it's the people that are picking the grapes, picking the berries. If you're running a hotel, it's the people that are turning over the rooms, turning over the beds and the bathrooms. If you're a construction company, it's the people that are hammering the nails, that are doing the work. So they want immigrants to come over here and work as cheaply as possible.
That's why
immigrants that are going to come here and become,
like what he's saying, he's right about big business. But what America used to be about wasn't big business. It was small business. And people felt good about employing their neighbors. They had small electrical companies, small construction companies, little 5 and dime stores, general notion stores. And they paid a good wage because they knew their employees. They met their employees' families. They felt good about providing that employee with a living that he could provide for his family. But now we've disconnected all of that. Now it's about spreadsheets, about profit motives, about stock releases or stock IPOs and stuff. We need to throw all this shit out and go back to the drawing board. It's no good. It doesn't contribute to human flourishing.
They are not actually citizens, or in some cases they are, but there's another way in which the workers are dependent on their employers, like in the case of H-1Bs. They want people that are going to come over and, in a word, accept a lower quality of life. Lower wages, becoming an underclass, dependent on government to subsidize their lifestyle with some small wages. And if you could get that cost down with a constantly increasing supply of labor and people that are working basically without regulation, you keep that cost as low as possible, and that means your profits can go up. If the cost goes down, the profits go up. The revenue is fixed. If you can get the cost down, you get to keep more of what you bring in. It's that simple. And so Wall Street, which buys and sells the companies, and the companies which are becoming conglomerates and highly centralized, well, it is in their economic interest to have this endless supply of labor. As a distinct class, the people that own the businesses, whether they're running the businesses themselves or they just own the stocks or they're the asset managers, they want to keep the supply of labor flowing so that profits go up, so that their assets appreciate in value and they get richer. And those are your billionaires. Those are your billionaire class. That is your billionaire corporate business owning class, which is subsidizing the Republican Party. And at the end of the day, that is the dirty little secret of the GOP. Let me put it to you simply. The Republican Party subsists on donations and funding from the billionaire business class, but they subsist on votes from the middle and working class. That's where they get their votes. They get their votes from states like West Virginia, where they're coal miners, states like Texas, where they're cattle ranchers, states like Indiana, where they used to make things, where they used to be factories, but they get their funding from Wall Street.
Nice.
So how do you reconcile these two positions? Because these are economically at odds with one another.
Hell yeah.
Well, you create someone like Trump. And Trump is going to play up the cultural, social angle and even the economic angle for the voters and say, build the wall, deport them all. We speak English, not Spanish. This is countries for Americans, heritage Americans, whatever. Then you get elected and you don't deport the illegals that are actually working. You make a show of it because you need those voters. You deport the criminals, you make these gestures, you convince them somehow that you're doing something that you're not actually doing. And then when you actually go to work as the president, you protect the economic interests of your donors, of the billionaires. And that's the dirty secret of the GOP. Why are you not getting mass deportations? It's not because Stephen Miller didn't figure it out, okay? That's not why. Look, they got $90 billion for ICE. They've got the Immigration and Naturalization Act. They have the jurisdiction. They have the money. They have the authority. They could do it. And they were doing it. When Trump first got in, ICE was accidentally deporting people from their jobs. They were arresting people at the meatpacking plant. They were arresting people at the Hyundai plant. They were arresting people in the Home Depot parking lots. They can do it. They were doing it. Trump told them to stop. He explicitly and specifically told Stephen Miller to stop doing those things. Why? Because he got the call. He got the call from the asset managers. He got the call from the banks. He got the call from Wall Street. They got nervous. They read the news. They saw job site raid, illegal immigrants not showing up to work, afraid of being deported. And these people that watch the news closely to get the edge, trading stocks and speculating, they said, uh-oh, we got a problem. We have persistently high inflation. We have a Federal Reserve chairman that won't bring interest rates down. We have a tariff war and a trade war with China. And now in the middle of all this,
Oh,
Our
yeah.
slaves are not going to work because they're afraid that they'll get deported by Trump. So they called Trump up. They called up the Commerce Secretary. They called up all the different people in the cabinet, and they said, shut it down. Our slaves are afraid to go to work. And if we can't get them to go to work, then we got to hire American. And Americans want health care. Americans want a living wage.
Yep.
Americans need to be
Right,
trained
man.
up
He's
because
absolutely right.
they've been excluded from this job market for 30 years because a decision was made that they would be replaced by foreigners because that's cheaper. So Trump called up Stephen Miller and said, we got to stop. We're going to give H-2A visas, H-1A visas to the illegal farm workers. He said, we're not going to deport people from job sites. We're not going to go to a job site with more than 50 workers. We're not going to implement E-Verify. Instead, we're going to have these visible patrols of ICE, right? We're going to have ICE just walking down the street, Border Patrol parading around downtown Chicago so that all these liberals can take their pictures and go on TikTok, and Republicans will say, oh boy, the deportations are happening. Look, there they are in uniform parading around the streets. Okay? That's the trick. That's the conceit. They never intended to deport anybody, and this is why. Because you deport 10 million people and GDP is negative. You deport 10 million people and inflation ticks up. Prices are going to go up 2%. So they'll never do it. And you have to understand structurally what is happening. To get elected, Republicans need billions of dollars. Who has the discretionary funds to contribute billions of dollars every 2 years to throw into a sinkhole for an election? The capitalist class, the billionaires. That's who has the money to do it. Ken Griffin, the Bernard Marcus at Home Depot, Uline, the one of the other big Republican donors. These are the people that have the money to put up for the Republicans year over year. So the Republicans got to keep the business interest happy. In the House, in the Senate, in the White House, in the state races. And so as long as that is the case, you're not going to get your deportations. The economic interest, the capitalist interest is always going to win out. And listen, I'm not a communist, okay? When I say capitalist, I mean the people that own capital. I mean the privately accumulated capital. The people that have billions of dollars in assets. Most people have no capital. Most people have a negative net worth. You have credit card debt. You're living paycheck to paycheck. You are not a capitalist because you have no capital. You don't own your home. You don't own your car. You're delinquent on your payments. You're living paycheck to paycheck. You have no savings. You have no stocks. You have no nothing. You are not a capitalist. You are a worker. Okay? Most people are becoming basically indentured servants in a sense. Everything is as a service. And we are becoming less wealthy. So you need to think in terms of the economics. You can't vote for Trump and say, I hope he's going to do mass deportations for me. Why would he do that? He's going to do mass deportations because you're uncomfortable with diversity? I don't like that my school is all Hispanics. I voted for Trump so he can remove these people. Trump doesn't give a fuck about that. He don't live with them. You think all the immigrants live in Mar-a-Lago? You think the immigrants live in Palm Beach? The immigrants work at Palm Beach. The immigrants don't live in Trump Tower. They don't live in Mar-a-Lago. They work in Trump Tower. They work at Mar-a-Lago. They're delivering Uber Eats and DoorDash.
I watch a lot of old movies, and if you watch movies in the 40s, there were no Spanish people around. You know, our maids were colored women, and the people that were our gardeners, we had a class of people. I'm not going to say underclass, but the uneducated class, they had jobs. And for some reason, those people were cast onto the garbage heap, cast aside, and we imported new people when we had people that were willing to do that. And for some reason, our superiors got the bright idea, oh, we can pay a maid a couple dollars or, a few pennies less than the people that are citizens. It boggles my, if you see old movies, that's how it was. It irks me something fierce that they changed it.
Trump Tower
It's
lobby.
evil.
Okay? So there's no culture clash for Trump or Tucker or any of these people. It's a culture clash for us because, we have to share the commons with them. So that's the dirty secret of the GOP. You want to know why you were never going to get them? Because the billionaires that fund the GOP employ these people and profit off of them. That's why. It's got nothing to do with anything else. So if anybody tells you otherwise and says, well, I feel like Trump is going to do it. I feel like Trump is our guy and the posters are in control. And look at this press release. Dude, fuck the press releases. People say, look, the Department of Homeland Security X account just posted a meme. That doesn't matter. That's some intern. That guy is getting paid $40,000 a year. Okay? That is some shithead that is getting paid a pittance. And he's all jazzed up. He's texting his mommy and daddy. I'm working in the Capitol. I'm working in D.C. That guy has no power. That guy is a nothing. Posters are in control. J.D. Vance is following somebody on Twitter. The DHS account posted a press release. Yeah, that and $1 will buy you a cup of coffee. I wipe my ass with that. You know what matters? Jamie Dimon has Trump on speed dial. That's what matters. Okay? The head of BlackRock, Larry Fink, he's got Trump on speed dial. That's what matters. And those people are not nativists, okay? They're not reading V-Dare. They're not nativists that want heritage Americans to preside. Like, what? They don't care about any of that. They're literally building skyscrapers for their bank, which is dependent on the macroeconomic success of the country. That has very little to do with how you feel about the fact they put a Mexican ice cream parlor in your neighborhood, So it is just a flawed way of thinking to think that these people that write Substack articles have more power and more influence over the Trump government than the fucking billionaires that gave Trump hundreds of millions of dollars. You see the problem? You're following some 35-year-old burnout that makes 40 grand a month, posting articles on Chronicles and a Substack, telling you everything's under control. Trump is listening to us. And you think that guy has more pull over the government than Larry Fink and Jamie Dimon. And that's insane. That's mental illness. So this is why you actually need an insurgent candidate that is truly disruptive. You need someone that is going to take on the billionaires. You need someone that is going to take on the money power. As Spengler wrote, you need a true Caesar-like figure who is going to rally the popular power, the people power, the national power against the money power. Because that's what it is. It's money. Money, it's sort of like medium is the message. It has this inertia all by itself. The market itself has to be stopped by the state. That's what has to happen. Anyway, so that's that Wall Street Journal editorial. Very, very important point to understand for anybody that would place their hopes and dreams and aspirations on the next Republican being based. And did you notice, this is the last thing I'll say, then we'll move on. You know what's really interesting? Have you noticed that all of a sudden, some of the planners at Davos are now saying that maybe we have too many migrants? Have you noticed this? That all of a sudden Klaus Schwab and Larry Fink and Hillary Clinton, they're now saying maybe we're taking in too many migrants? Why do you think that is?
Remember, I said this the other day.
Do you think it's
that even Hillary Clinton came out and said it was a bad idea and we need to fix it? I told you guys, the worm is turning. They've realized, things may not get better for us, this generation, but at least they recognize they fucked up big time.
They got red pilled?
Shit. Sorry about
Why
that.
do you think the United States is shutting down its borders? Why do you think the United Kingdom is going to try to control regular migration? Is it because they had an epiphany and the people have had enough and they got based? It's because we are just now starting to see technological unemployment.
For some reason.
We are just now starting to see the disruption to the labor market caused by AI.
Hear shit for some reason.
Soon, we're going to have a very similar effect with robotics. And what do you think happens when AI and robots start replacing all the white collar and blue collar work? You're going to have a lot of unemployed people. What are you going to do with all of them? Now, all of those producers and workers who are also consumers, as this article says, they're now going to become beneficiaries of the state. They're going to be on UBI. And the more of those people you have, you got a lot of problems. Because these are a lot of people with nothing to do all day. And they're going to need very expensive health care, and they're going to need housing, and they're going to need food and other stuff. So now all of a sudden, now the central planners say, I think we maybe have too many migrants. Maybe this is a problem. Well, that has everything to do with the macroeconomic trend, which is that pretty soon maybe we're not going to have a need for labor. There's a question, will there be labor? What kind of labor will there be in an economy where we have an artificial general intelligence? Now, I'm not going to weigh in on whether these predictions are true or whether they're overstated. All I'm saying is the reason what is true is that some of the planners are now expressing doubt, and that's calculated. Hillary Clinton doesn't say a word which isn't choreographed. So it's not like she made an offhand remark. This reflects a changing consensus among these elite circles. And it doesn't have to do with these nativistic sentiments. It has to do with the change in the macroeconomic projections of the people that are paying her speaking fees and buying her book. That's why you're getting that. So it just speaks to the fact that that is what drives everything. And ultimately, that is what we have to get in front of if we want to have real change. So anyway, that's the Wall Street Journal. I do want to get into the situation in Iran. And we're running out of time here a little bit. We're an hour in, but I'm going to talk about Iran because this is a really big deal. We are into our coverage of the imminent action in Iran. And today we have another update for you. The buildup of military force continues. Second aircraft carrier strike group has entered the Mediterranean Sea as of today. That is the USS Gerald Ford, our biggest, most advanced aircraft carrier, which is joined by 3 destroyers, has entered the Mediterranean Sea. It is on its way to the Middle East, where it will join another carrier strike group, the USS Abraham Lincoln, as well as a number of other warships, aircraft, personnel that have been forward deployed. That aircraft carrier, once in place, will put the United States in a position as soon as Saturday to launch an all-out attack on Iran. This is according to the latest information from Axios and other sources close to the administration. They say that as early as Saturday, we will be in a position, offensively and defensively, to start the attack on Iran. And this is a story from the New York Times. It says, quote, the rapid buildup of U.S. forces in the Middle East has progressed to the point that President Trump has the option to take military action against Iran as soon as this weekend, according to officials inside the Pentagon, leaving the White House with high-stakes choices about pursuing diplomacy or war. Mr. Trump has given no indication that he has made a decision about how to proceed, but the drive to assemble a military force capable of striking Iran's nuclear program, its ballistic missiles, and accompanying launch sites has continued this week, despite indirect talks between the two nations on Tuesday, with Iran seeking 2 weeks to come back with fleshed-out proposals for a diplomatic solution. Mr. Trump has repeatedly demanded that Iran give up its nuclear program, including an agreement not to enrich any more uranium. The Prime Minister of Israel, whose country potentially might take part in an attack, has been pushing for action to weaken Iran's ability to launch missiles at Israel. Israeli forces, which have been on heightened alert for weeks, have been making more preparations for a possible war. And a meeting of Israel's security cabinet was moved to Sunday from Thursday, according to 2 Israeli defense officials. Many administration officials have expressed skepticism about the prospect of reaching a diplomatic deal with Tehran. The indirect talks on Tuesday in Geneva yesterday ended with what Iran's foreign minister said was an agreement on a set of guiding principles. The U.S. said the two sides made progress, but added that big gaps remain. So let me set the stage here for you. We'll do a little bit of background, then we'll talk about where this is going imminently. So as you know, we are in the second leg of our campaign against Iran. It all started last year. I mean, it goes back much further than that. But in the second Trump administration, it started last year. As soon as Trump got into office, Netanyahu started coming by asking us to bomb Iran's nuclear program, which we then did. We engaged Iran in negotiations, came to an impasse, and then Israel provoked Iran into a war, and the United States intervened to cripple Iran's nuclear complex by bombing Fordo, Esfahan, and Natanz. And so we resolved the issue temporarily. And we resolved the issue temporarily by increasing Iran's breakout time. What is that timeline? How long will it take for Iran to get a nuclear bomb if they decide they want one? What is that timeline? Before those strikes, it might have been 3 months. If Iran made the decision, they'd have a primitive device in 3 months. After the strikes, maybe it's 2 years. So that's what that accomplished. Well, Netanyahu has started coming back. Came back in December. Came back again recently. He came back, I believe it was last week. And once again, Netanyahu is asking for another attack on Iran. And this time, Netanyahu is asking us to bomb their missiles. Israel says that Iran is going to preemptively attack Israel this time. And they're going to do it with ballistic missiles. And so the United States has to go in and bomb Iran's missiles before they get a chance to do that. So this is where we are. Now, after Netanyahu came to visit the United States in December, these protests mysteriously started out of nowhere in Iran, and they threatened to topple the government. The United States was going to intervene, maybe to push over the regime. But we didn't have enough assets in the region. We only had one carrier strike group. We didn't have enough defensive capabilities. Our troops were vulnerable to a retaliatory strike, so Trump called it off. But at the same time that he called off the strike, he started sending in a huge force package to remedy the situation. So Trump started sending in a ton of warships into the Middle East and a ton of missile defense systems and started moving our forces out of harm's way and started moving in aircraft and cargo ships and refueling aircraft and all kinds of assets to prepare for a possible attack on Iran and to defend against a counterattack from Iran. And a couple weeks ago, Trump gave them an ultimatum, and he said, either you are going to fully surrender and capitulate to our demands, or we are going to destroy your regime. And since then, the United States has been engaged in diplomacy with Iran. I say diplomacy because that's not really what it is. They've opened up indirect talks between the U.S. and Iran. And this was done at the behest of our other Muslim allies. Only after an intense lobbying effort from Turkey, Qatar, Pakistan, the Emirates, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, did the United States relent, and they gave Iran one last chance to make a deal. Now, this is a very important thing to understand, okay? A lot has been said about these talks. They are being called negotiations. They are nothing like that. That is not what this is. I've seen this for the past 3 weeks. I've even, used improper language about this. These are not negotiations. That is not what is happening here. Okay? For the past 3 weeks, yes, Washington and Tehran have engaged in indirect talks. They are not negotiations. Why? Because the United States is not negotiating. Understand the difference. Last year, arguably, the United States was negotiating. and Steve Witkoff and some of the other personnel were looking for a creative solution where Iran is going to give some concessions and maybe we would accept some technical concessions, but then we bombed them. And now they're weaker than ever before. They're in no position to negotiate. From the perspective of our administration, their proxy network has been destroyed. Their nuclear program has been buried underneath rubble. The only thing that really threatens Israel and our bases is their ballistic missile program. That's it. And so from the perspective of Washington and Tel Aviv, they are almost neutralized. They're badly diminished. So the United States engaging in talks is not the same as negotiations. We're not going to compromise. We're not going to change our position. What was expressed in Oman last week and what was expressed in Switzerland yesterday was not a willingness to negotiate, but rather we are giving Iran a chance to capitulate to our demands. That's what that was. Let's be very clear. The United States has been firm from the time Trump made the ultimatum several weeks ago. In Oman and in Switzerland, the U.S. position is, this is where we are, you got to meet us here. Not we're going to meet in the middle, not we're going to work something out. The White House, the press secretary, the Secretary of State, the envoy, the president, the vice president, they have all said, our position is you're giving up enrichment or you're going to die, and that's it. And Iran is trying to stall for time. Iran is begging them for negotiations. The Ayatollah gave a dispensation for Pezeshkian and Araghchi to negotiate. And they are making these concessions. Well, we'll agree to limit enrichment for 3 years. Well, we'll give up our stockpile of enriched uranium. And the United States is saying, that's great. We love to hear it, but there's still a long way for you to go between what you're offering and what we're asking for. The United States is not moved by this. Now, what does that mean? As we've talked about, what is the substance of the negotiations? It concerns nuclear enrichment. Iran has the ability to enrich uranium, the infrastructure, the technology, the expertise, the raw material, and the United States is telling them you have to give it up. And they are telling us they will never give it up. That's really what it is. And that's what it was last year. And that's what it was when Biden tried to negotiate in 2023. And that's what it was in 2020. And that's what it was in 2015 when the JCPOA was agreed upon. That is the impasse. They have enrichment. We want them to give it up. They refuse. Where does that leave us here today? Well, like I said on Telegram and like I've been saying, the United States and Israel perceive Iran as weaker than ever before. And so now we're engaging them in this gunboat diplomacy where we put an armada off their coast, point the guns at them and say, surrender or else. And like I said, people are calling these negotiations. It isn't what it is. From the perspective of our side, we are in a position either to extract all the concessions we want, or we're going to do a regime change, or we're going to bomb them, and then whatever is remaining is going to make a deal. But that is really where we are. All of this is to say we are going to get military action. A deal is not in the cards, okay? And the reason I'm insistent upon this is because I saw an interview today between Steve Bannon and Kurt Mills. Kurt Mills is an American conservative, and he's wrong about everything. I probably agree with him on most things, but he's one of these analysts that's very Israel critical, but also very pro-Trump. And he was there last year saying that we're going to get a deal with Iran. Oh, Israel bombed Iran? Well, we'll never participate. Oh, we participated? Well, at least it only lasted a day. Kurt Mills is back for another round of being wrong about everything. I saw him on Steve Bannon today, and he said, if the United States insists on zero enrichment, then we're not going to get a deal. But if we concede, then we're going to get a deal. And I hear this. There's a lot of optimism. There's a lot of talk. There are a lot of headlines. It's bullshit. Don't listen to it. Okay? The headlines say, Progress has been made in the talks. The talks have been constructive. Both sides say the talks have been good. These are press releases. Press releases from the other side. Actually think about what is at stake here. Actually think about what is said. Think about what the actual actors involved are thinking and what they want. The headlines, of course, are going to say the talks are good. Of course it's going to say that. Of course Iran is going to say they were productive. Read between the lines. The United States is saying there are gaps between our position and theirs. They've got 2 weeks to meet us where we are. What does that sound like? That's an ultimatum. Now, if the United States is giving Iran an ultimatum, then you have to think about, well, if they're not going to change their mind, will Iran? And the answer is no. If Iran has come this far, they're not going to give up enrichment. They've been tricked by the United States. They don't trust the United States.
And I wouldn't
They think
trust
the United
this
States
either.
and Israel are in cahoots to destroy Iran. So why would they give up enrichment at this point? They believe that they're going to get bombed anyway. So why are they engaging in negotiations? Well, just like the United States. They're not going to budge on their position. They're engaging in negotiations to buy time. If they can buy another 2 weeks, that's another 150 ballistic missiles that they can throw at Israel all at the same time. If they can buy another month, that's 300 missiles. It's another dozen attack helicopters from Russia. It gives them more time to put the leadership underground and protect them from a decapitation strike. So people are saying, in other words, I hope these negotiations work. I hope they're going to make a deal. I wonder how the talks are going. They're not real talks. It's not really happening. So where does that leave us? Well, we're going to war. As a matter of fact, we've been in a war. We are in a war. We have been in a war. What else do you call it? What else do you call it when we are engaging in industrial sabotage in Iran for years? Economic sanctions against Iran for years. Secondary sanctions against Iran, against their other trading partners. What do you call it when we're assassinating their leaders, when we're bombing them, when we're bombing their proxies? What do you call that other than a war? We are in a state of war against Iran, and we have been for a long time. And we are going to strike Iran again in this war. The question now is, what is that strike going to look like? And what is the goal right now? Well, let's talk about what the strike looks like. It's helpful to consider the actual forces that are assembled. So this is from the Wall Street Journal. It talks about the size of the presence that has been assembled. It says, quote, the U.S. is sending significant numbers of jet fighters and support aircraft to the Middle East, assembling the greatest amount of air power in the region since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. The U.S. is ready to take action against Iran, but President Trump hasn't decided whether to order strikes and whether the aim would be to halt Iran's nuclear program, wipe out its missiles, or to topple the regime. So it's two questions. Will he strike, and what's his endgame? Like we talked about, I think it's a certainty that he will strike. Over the past few days, the U.S. has continued to move F-35 and F-22 jet fighters toward the Middle East. A second aircraft carrier loaded with attack and electronic warfare planes is on the way. Command and control aircraft are inbound, and critical air defenses have been deployed to the region in recent weeks. The firepower will give the U.S. the option of carrying out a sustained weeks-long air war against Iran instead of the one-and-done midnight hammer strike that was carried out last June. Options include a campaign to kill scores of Iranian political and military leaders with the goal of overthrowing the government, as well as an air attack that would be limited to striking targets, including nuclear and ballistic missile facilities. Both would involve a potentially weeks-long operation. As formidable as the buildup appears, however, it is just a fraction of the assets that were deployed for the 1991 Gulf War or the 2003 invasion of Iraq. For the former, the U.S. deployed 6 aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf and Red Sea. And for Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003, the U.S. Air Force positioned 863 aircraft in the Middle East. Desert Storm in 1991 included 1,300 aircraft. So the reason that it's important to consider the size and the scope of the force is because it tells you what they're planning. In 1990, when we invaded Iraq, we had 1,300 aircraft, 6 aircraft carriers. In 2003, we had 900 aircraft. And we had a coalition with the United Kingdom and other countries. 200,000 troops invaded Iraq. We don't have anything close to that assembled in the Middle East right now. 2 aircraft carriers, squadrons instead of wings. So maybe you have 100 aircraft in total as opposed to 1,000. 2 aircraft carriers as opposed to 6. 50,000 personnel as opposed to 200,000. What does this tell us? Well, if that's the size of the force, then it's not going to be a ground invasion. And I know that sounds like, of course it's not a ground invasion, but, you never know. Because here's the thing. If you want to topple the Iranian regime, you can't just defeat them with air power. You're going to need a ground force to go in and actually kill all their soldiers. You're going to need a lot of soldiers on the ground to go and actually secure the cities and the infrastructure and kill the personnel and gain control over the country. If you don't do that, well, then there's still going to be 1 million Iranian armed forces and Revolutionary Guard tomorrow, or a week after your air campaign, and there's still going to be a chain of command. So you actually do need a ground force to have some replacement government, to actually have regime change. If that's not in place, then it doesn't look like they're going to pursue a ground war or a regime change war. So what is this force equipped to do? If it's not going to be Desert Storm, if it's not going to be Iraqi freedom, what is it going to look like? Well, this looks like the force package that was assembled in April 2024 and July 2024, when the United States was there to simply deter Iran from going all out against Israel. It was a deterrent. It looks like the force package that was assembled last June when we bombed Iran once from the United States. It was missile carriers in the region that launched some Minuteman missiles at Iran's nuclear complex. It was B-2 stealth bombers from Missouri, which actually flew to Iran and bombed Fordo and Natanz with the bunker buster bombs. It wasn't even anything from Diego Garcia, wasn't anything from the region. So if the force package resembles those instances, then what you have is this: probably enough force to carry out an air campaign and enough force to defend U.S. personnel against a counterattack. It looks like that is the type of force that they have in place. Now, what kind of air campaign can we expect? Again, that's really the question. Is it going to be an air campaign to destroy Iran's nuclear complex and missiles? Is it to destroy what is left of their nuclear program and to prevent them from making additional missiles and launching missiles at Israel so that the country has a degraded defensive capability? Or is the goal here to kill all of Iran's leaders? Because that could be the purpose, to go and bomb heavily fortified facilities where Iran's military and civilian leadership are hiding out. In the former scenario, we are making Iran weak and vulnerable, potentially for future negotiations. You destroy their missiles, you destroy their nuclear program, and then you can basically impose regime change on them.
Very much.
And really, there's no reason to negotiate with Iran at that point. They got nothing left. It'll take them years to rebuild. In the other scenario, you kill all the leadership so that they are replaced from lower in the chain of command, and then they negotiate. It's helpful, I think, to look at what happened in Venezuela. We put one carrier strike group off the coast of Venezuela. We didn't even really kill that many people. We didn't even really do any serious airstrikes. What do we do in Venezuela? We plucked out one guy, and then what do we do immediately after? We put a carrier off the coast. We bombed some of their fishing boats. We bombed one of their ports. We plucked out their top guy. And then what remained was pliable and willing to negotiate. Maduro was succeeded by his vice president, and now she is giving an audience to our Secretary of Energy. And you got this, which is so insane to think about. We kidnapped your president. The vice president succeeds him, and now she is standing on a stage with our energy secretary who is here to take all their oil. Hi, nice to meet you. You just kidnapped my boss. Now take all of our oil. Let's pose for a photo op. But what was the MO there? What was the Trump 2 MO in Venezuela? It was using a limited amount of power, using a limited amount of, you could say, smart power, hard power, but employed in a limited and restrained and smart way to decapitate part of the regime. You could call it a partial decapitation, not even necessarily a regime change. I like the word decapitation because the regime did not actually change at all. Same security apparatus, same political apparatus. It's all the same. We just took out one of the top guys. And then, and this is the most important step, we went to the successor and said, okay, now what do you want to do? You can come to New York and we can put you in prison too, because we own you. We can do these things to you, or you can make a deal. And Maduro's successor said, okay, I'll make a deal. I'll give you all the oil. Maybe this is what they're going for in Iran. And maybe that's why it worked out this way. They did Venezuela first, and then they sent the same aircraft carrier from the Caribbean to the Middle East. And they're telling Iran, you're going to surrender, you're going to capitulate, you're going to make a deal. We put this huge presence there. We demonstrated our capabilities in Venezuela. We demonstrated our ability and willingness and resolve to use force. And now we're going to do something to Iran. What specifically it's going to be, it's hard to say. Maybe it's both. Maybe we go in and for a week, we just rape them. Like we just destroy their missiles. We destroy what's left of their nukes. We kill a ton of their leadership. And then whoever gets up in the rubble, whether that's Iranian armed forces, who knows? It's some element of the opposition which has been collaborating with the CIA or something. Whoever remains after the week of bombing, we're going to go to that guy and say, all right, are you ready to negotiate now? And maybe that's the play. Maybe that's what it looks like at this point in time. And the reason I say that is because if you don't have a ground force / if you don't have popular opposition on the ground, which is armed and trained, like in Syria, and they were Al-Qaeda, but whatever. If you don't have some form of a ground force, if you don't have an alternative regime to take the place of the existing regime, then you can't do regime change. You can bomb them to kingdom come. But if you don't have ground forces, if you don't have someone with legitimacy, with an organization that's ready to step up, the regime will not change. You're just going to kick the can down the road until the next time you got to bomb them after they've rebuilt their defenses. So if these things are not in place, then that leads me to believe it's not a real regime change. You're not going to topple the regime with a week of bombing. So what's really the goal here? Well, again, you may not change the regime, but you can kill a lot of people in the regime and you can destroy a lot of their stuff. And after a week of doing that, maybe whoever is left with whatever is left is going to be far more willing to make a deal. Maybe that's the play. And I continue to believe that the administration, on some level, must recognize that an all-out war would be catastrophic. We are in a midterm election year. Do you think the Trump administration believes it is wise to engage Iran in a protracted war like Iraq that is going to go on forever? No. They don't want to be fighting a war in Iran in November. They don't want to be fighting a war in Iran where oil prices get jacked up because the Strait of Hormuz closes, where Americans are getting blown to smithereens in Al Udeid and elsewhere. They don't want it to go on for a long period of time. They want it to be quick, painless, and they want to succeed. And I think that is their thinking. So that would lead me to believe they're going to use their limited amount of force in the region for another smart decapitation strike, and maybe as an alternative or on top of that, they're going to degrade Iran's defenses. And on the other side of that, they're going to have something like what you saw in Venezuela. Maybe it's not even a regime change. Maybe you just get a president who's going to work with us. Maybe you get an Ayatollah, or maybe the Ayatollah's dead after this. But you're going to get a government that can negotiate with the United States.
I like that.
That will not resist. Now, whether that is successful is an altogether different question. How successful will this operation be? It depends. And will there be a pliable regime or a remnant of the regime that is willing to work with the United States? That seems unlikely.
No, I do have a pet.
But we just don't know.
Business.
We don't know who's going to die, who's going to be killed, who will be remaining, and how their psychology will change after seeing what we're capable of. But I think that is going to be the approach. And I think it's going to happen within a matter of weeks. I don't think that the United States intends to be hanging out there with all of this force in the region indefinitely. I don't think they want to do this later. I think they want to get it done as quickly and as soon as possible for contingency's sake and for other reasons. So I think we're going to get, within 2 to 4 weeks, you're going to get a major air campaign. It's going to target the missiles. It's going to retarget nuclear. And I think it's going to target some element of the regime, probably specifically the Ayatollah, because ultimately he is holding up the deal. The Ayatollah is the supreme leader. The Revolutionary Guard answers to him, and the Revolutionary Guard built the proxy network. He will not allow Pezeshkian to negotiate much of the time. He is the sovereign of the country. It is an Islamic republic under the control of jurists, led by the top cleric, the supreme leader. He's the symbol of the regime. He's the head of state. He's the sovereign. So I think that that is roughly what it's going to look like. That's my guess right now. If I were to forecast it, and this stuff is never precise, but if I were to forecast it, that is my best guess based on what we have in the region. Of course, anything can happen. But given the two positions, what's being said by the White House, what's being said by Iran, what either side is willing to accept, the amount of force there, that's not too big, but it's not small either. Midterm election, the timeline, political constraints, I think you take all that information together, and that's about as good of a picture as you're going to get about what this is going to be. And here's the thing. Ultimately, you know there is going to be a confrontation because Israel wants it. And that's really all you need to know. You might think it's political suicide for Trump to go to war in Iran. You might think it's geopolitical suicide to pursue regime change in Iran. You may think this is totally insane and a terrible idea, and I agree with you. As to whether it is likely, think about what is more likely. Think about how far Israel has come here. They have defeated Hamas. They have defeated Hezbollah. They have defeated Bashar al-Assad. They have removed the Revolutionary Guard from Syria. They've gotten the United States to bomb Iran's nuclear program. Iran has used a lot of its ballistic missiles. There was a popular uprising a month ago. Their economy's never been weaker. Secondary sanctions are in effect. They've got a favorable president in the White House. They've got a favorable party in the Congress. In a word, Israel has come all this way in the past 2 years. So much fighting, so many bombs. They've expended so much political capital. They've lost the affection and the support of the world, and everyone hates them. And their ultimate goal is regime change in Iran. That's what all of this has been for. Rolling back the proxy network systematically, destroying Iran's strategic weapons, its missiles and nukes, and then cutting off the head of the snake. And once you have a favorable regime in Iran, Israel has hegemony over the Middle East because they're the only nuclear power. They have a qualitative military edge guaranteed by the United States, and all the countries there will be under the suzerainty of the United States. Think of it. Turkey is a NATO country. Egypt has a treaty with the United States. So does Jordan. Lebanon is under the thumb of the United States. Syria is working with the United States. Iraq is a puppet of the United States. Saudi Arabia dependent on us. The Emirates, ally of Israel. Qatar, dependent on us increasingly. You get rid of Iran, that's it. Pakistan is a U.S. ally. You get rid of Iran, and Israel has their run of the Middle East. We won't have hegemony there. They will. That's the grand prize. That's what they're playing for. And so is it more crazy that the U.S. will go to war with Iran for regime change, or is it more crazy that Israel gives up short of their grand prize? They've come all this way. Iran is weaker than ever. The window is wide open but closing. Favorable governance in the United States. All the sacrifices they made, are they going to stop short of toppling the regime? And think of, if they stop short and Iran somehow makes a deal, well, what happens? Then they get integrated, investment pours in, their economy comes back, the people aren't angry anymore, they rebuild their missiles, then they're good, then they're never going anywhere. So Israel is either going to totally lose or totally win, and they always get what they want. So I think odds are it's regime change, guaranteed. Only way that's going to happen is with the United States is going to intervene in some form. Now, the question is just how that's going to happen. Are they going to just cut the head off with the Ayatollah? Are they going to have to topple the regime forcefully? It all depends on how this plays out militarily. And that is where we are. It is a war. It is a military confrontation. And we are serving Israel's aims here. And it doesn't look like there's any way out of it. So that is where we are with Iran. But like I said, we're going to be watching it very closely into tomorrow, Friday, next week. Looks like the weekend is going to be the earliest. Rubio is preparing to visit Israel at the end of the month. Iran was given 2 weeks yesterday. So the window looks like Saturday to a week from this coming Tuesday. That is going to be the window, maybe when a strike will occur, although, of course, it could be after that as well. But that's where we are. So we'll keep an eye on it. But that's all I have for you tonight. We're going to move on. We're going to take a look at our super chats. We'll see what you guys have to say. This has been a long show. I'm getting a little bit exhausted here. It's been like an hour and 40-minute monologue. Can you believe 100-minute monologue?
It's been an excellent show.
It's a little nutty. All right. Okay. Let's take a look at our super chats. We'll see what you guys have to say about all this. I think that's the best analysis you're going to get at this point in time. But as always, we got to wait and see. Okay. Let's take a look. Let's see what we got here.
MG42 sent $20. Are you on the spectrum or something? You talk about Pat Buchanan all the time. He wanted a republic, not an empire. You two would disagree on 90% plus of things.
Pat Buchanan was a great man.
That's crazy.
He's a great man.
Oh, well, I talk about Pat Buchanan, so, we agree on everything.
Great guy.
Look, I like Pat Buchanan, and I agree with him about immigration, and I agree with him about the Israel lobby, but we are an empire, and we really have been for a long time. We've been an empire since like the 1890s. So I never agreed with that. I never agreed with this paleo-libertarian, paleo-conservative idea that we're this little Chungus republic. We're this, we're like a post office with the U.S. flag, and we're going to have a little diner. No, we are an empire. We have aircraft carriers. We have, thousands of nukes. Like, that's just what we are. So, and that's what we were always destined to be. It's geographical determinism.
We kind of always
we're insulated by the oceans. We have a supermassive.
And I say that because England, that's who we are as a people. England is the same way. They can't help but kind of run the show. I mean, now not so much, but historically, for hundreds and hundreds of years, I think we are good leaders. We have a good ethos, a good way of life.
Population. We have all this territory and all these resources, and we're an industrial superpower. And so all we can do is expand. It's just what we are. It's just like built into our political form, is that we are an empire. And you may not like that, and there's aspects of it that you might not like, but that is what we are, and that is how we have to play. A country like this cannot just be a little country. Okay. And I really resent this like small town America thing where we're deluding ourselves and saying we're just like an ice cream parlor and a post office and a town hall with a little American flag and we're just the Boy Scouts. Okay, but we're signing up for the military to go on aircraft carriers, of which we have 10, in a global war against communism. And, we're making a billion bombers and tanks, and we have colonies, bro. What's Puerto Rico? We're an empire. That is what we are. And I like that. And I disagree with Buchanan on this. So I don't have to. You just seem like a low IQ person, honestly.
Jeez.
You just seem stupid. You talk about Pat Buchanan, but you disagree with him on this. Yeah, I mean, look,
such a thing as
Pat
nuance.
Buchanan red-pilled me on demographic replacement.
That's something I agree
with. But he
with
also
Nick
lost.
On, is that a lot of people that super chat, it's like they have no nuance, or they come on here with questions that they already know the answer to, or they're sucking up like teachers' pets, and it's ridiculous, or saying, they have ulterior motives. That's all. I mean, you can tell the ones that have ulterior motives, and then some people, they're asking for it. Sometimes it's a little harsh of Nick, but I think most of the time that he's right.
He also lost. So I don't, and maybe this is like sacrilegious. He's inspirational and he's right about a lot of things. And I think he's a hero, but he lost. And the reason that you are able to lionize him is because he lost. If he won, they would be vilifying him like Hitler, but he lost. So they lionize Richard Nixon, these Republican dorks. They lionize Buchanan. They lionize Trump. Why? These people are losing. So we need a winner. And we need someone that's going to fight for America first and actually deliver it. And, look, Pat Buchanan made a lot of mistakes. He endorsed George Bush. Never forget that. And ultimately, this whole Buchanan brigade thing, who knows? Maybe it was just too low energy. Maybe we need something a little more imaginative.
070/ sent $25. Earnestly, other than nothing, what kind of commentary from Super Chats would you enjoy engaging with?
I don't know, man. Try and figure it out, okay? I love that. Well, what do you want from us? I don't know. Just like, here's the thing. Most of the Super Chats are trying to antagonize me, and a lot of them are just really dumb.
And true.
And it's kind of just that simple.
Sometimes he is a little Might be my lingering Ben Shapiro-itis talking. But why is no one in the admin underlining the fact that Trump's ICE is much more efficient than Obama's? Obama had 3.4x more mistake arrests per 1,000, one death per 14K detainees, Trump 1/19K, and more citizens mistakenly deported. ICE was performing well despite all the unrest.
It doesn't matter, bro. They ran that playbook in 2018 when they were putting kids in cages. They said, Obama made the cages. Like, what are we doing? Like, that is totally a Ben Shapiro thing. Why haven't they pointed out that the Democrats did it? It's like, do you think that's the issue? It actually doesn't matter. I mean, it really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they just need to deliver the deportations. They just need to shut up and just arrest the Mexicans and deport them.
Deliver the goods.
It doesn't matter how they spin it or what they tell the media. They just got to do it. They can do it. So, why won't they highlight that Obama, that Obama is more based? Why won't they highlight the fact that Obama was arresting and killing more illegals? And that's supposed to make us like Trump more? I don't know. Maybe they don't want to defend Obama.
Mitt Romney sent $20. Niggas will hear Nick chuckle every time he reads Big Badinky Bones, and genuinely still call him an evil Nazi.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny.
John Porter sent $20. Anecdote.
Dude. That's actually just crazy. How are you saying anecdote? I get some of them being wrong. I get a few of them being wrong. But anecdote? Okay, macabre, French. Who really knows? Is it macabre? Is it macabre?
It is macabre.
I would get not having that one 100%. And blitzkrieg. Okay, it's a German word, but anecdote? That's crazy. Anecdote? I literally just can't even believe it. How has this person gotten so far in her career and she's just like a functional retard? You think she's like this clever grifter, or she's super sophisticated. She's just a dumb idiot. Anecdote.
Not from Holland sent $20.
Yeah, try
I never watched her
sounding it
debate with
out.
Sydney Watson until today, because I could just feel, from seeing her stupid face in the thumbnail, that it would go exactly the way it went. After all the nagging and interruptions, how did you not punch this fucking bitch in the mouth?
Is that a real question? Yeah, she's annoying. Women are annoying.
Beth Murray 777 sent $20. Diplomatically and with respect, your voice as a real Catholic would mean so much to the issue of Carrie Prejean Boiler and free speech.
Okay, bro. That's crazy.
Mm.
I don't know, man. I mean, there's going to be a war with Iran, and you're telling me about a MAGA bomb who got kicked off a committee. Look, don't get me wrong. I support her 100%. She's super based. It's kind of irritating, though. This, like, well, I would think you would care much. It's like, what do you want me to say? This Catholic lady got kicked off a committee because she criticized Israel. It's the Trump government. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. It's like going to Disney World and saying, fuck Mickey Mouse. You know, it's like going to Orlando Disney World and getting in the middle of Magic Kingdom and saying, fuck Mickey Mouse.
Neck of the woods.
Wait, why are you kicking me out? Dude, she goes into some committee in the Trump administration and says, I hate Israel. Wait, why are you kicking me out? You can't do this. It's like, what's the story?
Why can't
What's actually the story? Woman criticized Israel in Jew-controlled government and got fired. I mean, okay, I guess, bro. What do you want me to say about it? You want me to... See, this is what I really don't like.
Check this.
This show is about telling you something that you don't know. This show is about giving you analysis that you can't hear from other shows. And what people just desperately crave from me is that I am your pressure release valve.
A week ago.
And I'm not that guy. I'm not going to ever do that. I'm not going to get, all right, everybody, I'm getting up on my soapbox. And like, I am not going to Jester Max and tell you something you already know and just get you worked up. Okay, that's not what this show is. You want to know why I haven't covered that story? Because it's boring to me. It's the same story. Oh, a Trump appointee got fired for criticizing Israel? Yeah, water is wet. News at 10. Okay, black person arrested for crime. More at 11. Like, really? What the fuck do you want from me?
Like,
you want me to do a 30-minute monologue where I just stretch that one out? This is America. Yeah. You shouldn't be fired for criticizing a country that isn't America. Blah, blah. Like, what does that do for you, fucktard? Seriously.
The, snake in an anchor.
Don't give me that. Don't give me that. Don't play that with me all of a sudden. She goes this super chatter goes the other night. She goes, why aren't she covering this story? Then tonight, I think a Catholic like you would really care. Well, what is it that you're going for here?
Plan.
You think I'm doing a party trick here? You want to hold your hands up like some Protestant and go, amen, amen. He said the thing about Israel that we all already know and have heard 6 million times before. Don't start with that. Seriously. That's not what this show is. This show is about actually telling you what's happening in the world. We're on the verge of a war. We're on the verge of a war with Iran. And you're like, why won't he talk about this like Catholic that got fired from a thing? And I support her. I told you, I support her. Followed her on Twitter.
And check this
Obviously,
shit out.
You know my thoughts about this, but what is that even really doing for anybody?
This is the
for crying out loud. But some people are just desperate to hear it, you know, in this performative way.
The way they wore their tartan, they would have a metal crest that pinned the tartan together. That, you know, the part that came over their shoulder, and that means Pax Aut Bellum. It means peace or war. You know, take your choice, basically, peace or war. And also that sword, it's the sword of the skyward sword of justice, something like that. It's that's supposed to be the sword of justice pointed skyward.
No, but I want to hear you get all angry about it.
Deep meaning and shit.
I want to hear more rhetoric. You know what I have to say about that. Why even do the exercise? You already know what I'm going to say about that. Everybody does. It's obvious.
The shit is so sick.
And it's just like, okay, a low-level committee person lost her committee seat. Okay,
See,
it happens every day.
I have these
people get fired
images,
for,
and I
criticizing
still don't
Jews
have
every
a
day,
tattoo.
practically.
Sorry, it's just
I
can't do the tattoos.
Warner Brothers is considering a bid from Paramount. We're on our way to war with Iran. And you're saying, what about this committee woman? And like, whatever. You want to hear the story, fine, but you're going to then come at me for my credentials?
Yeah, I like it. It's pretty neat stuff.
Crazy.
I could trace my
You know what? I take that back. I shouldn't have been mean to you.
Scotland.
And I'm rereading your super chat. Your super chat was not nasty, diplomatically and with respect. I take it back. Okay. I shouldn't have been. I apologize. I shouldn't have been rude to you.
Hell yeah, it was
maybe I read that wrong. When you say like a real Catholic like you should be weighing in on this, I apologize. I jumped the gun. I misread that. I read it in a different way than it was written. But that is how I feel about it. I really, to tell you the truth, in a less hostile way, I really just feel like you already know what I'm going to say about it.
This is one of the
it's not going to change anything.
That's one of my
It's not even really an important battle. I feel sorry for her. Obviously, it's not justified, but she's not going to get rehired. We all already know, there's much bigger battles to fight here. That's why I'm not really going
on. Dublin, Dunblane, all the different cities with Blaine in them, those are actually named after the same thing that that Blaine, I believe it was a saint, Saint Blaine. And my clan got that name because they acted as that saint's bodyguard. So they picked up that name. It's a Scottish Midlands clan, not in the Highlands or the Lowlands, but the Midlands. But all of on the British Isles, all of the cities with the Blaine in them, Dublin and Dunblane, there's a bunch of them. They're all named after that same saint.
On that one. Someone says L fold.
Which I didn't
it's
know
not a fold.
Recently.
I legitimately misread it.
I thought that was badass.
I barely listen to these super chats. I heard real Catholic and my cortisol went through the roof. It's like the first guy says, Pat Buchanan would have never done this. Then this one, a real Catholic. And I was like Bruce the Shark in Finding Nemo. I smell blood. I just went ape shit.
Well, what it is people got tattoos to stand out, to look different. But everybody has fucking tattoos now. So the rebellious thing is to have no tattoos. That's how you stand out today. Because everybody has a tattoo and you look just like everybody else with a tattoo. Whereas, and I like it that way. I've always been a kind of a lone wolf. And it's like, no matter what I do, I'm a lone wolf. And, I was a lone wolf when I didn't get tattoos. Same thing now, because everybody gets them.
Amped out. I went full Cameron Owens. No, but I apologize. You're a friend of the show. I shouldn't have gotten nasty. I misread your super chat. But legitimately, that's why I'm not all over that one. Because I think, in my opinion, that is just part of this genre of slop where people are, it's like, there's a lot of stuff that matters in this country with organized Jewry. And some of these things are just the downstream effects. And what I choose editorially to cover on the show is a choice in and of itself. I'm really interested in the way that power works.
Yeah, that's what my parents always
I'm interested in the Warner Brothers deal. I'm interested in the war in Iran. I'm interested in the macroeconomics of mass migration.
Wouldn't let me get an earring when it was
kind
popular.
Of like, I got hired by Israel R Us, criticized Israel, got kicked out. It's like,
which I'm glad they saved.
You don't go to McDonald's and insult Ronald, You don't walk into McDonald's and say, I fucking hate Ronald McDonald. Wait, why are you kicking me out? I hate Big Macs and I don't like Happy Meals. Wait, what's happening? Why are you throwing me out? And that's what this is. Okay, she's on a committee. She criticized Israel. She got fired. Well, dude, Netanyahu is his boss. You guys are definitely
my kind of people.
That's just what it is.
Everybody's like, I don't have any tattoos
either. $50. Did you see the news about the fraternity hazing at the University of Iowa?
That's not a coincidence.
It looks harmless, but people are losing their minds.
I did.
That's definitely not a coincidence. It's a certain type of person that doesn't have tattoos at this point in time. We're obviously very similar people. you guys like watching my show. You guys don't like tattoos or don't have tattoos. I mean, it sounds to me like we have a lot in common. And those things aren't coincidental. Trust me on that.
People are calling it ritualistic grooming. Tim Pool was saying he wished the cops would have beat the fuck out of the guys running it. Feminine society. Anyways, love the show and RKD4NJF.
That is totally insane.
Experiment.
And look, I'm not like a frat guy. I'm not pro frat.
Tats.
At the same time, who really cares?
Less is more. Less is more.
These cops are coming in and they're totally cortisol spiking. It's like, bro, who cares? Seriously? Increasingly, I am just becoming very anti-cop. And you want to know why? Because we have no laws in this country. There's no laws at all. No accountability for anybody. Come here illegally, don't get deported. Steal a car and then use it to mug somebody, no arrests have been made. Oh, but a frat guy wants to do a little hazing, call in the National Guard. I blow a stop sign or go 15 over the speed limit. Here's your $15,000 ticket. So who cares? I mean, what's really the harm? Ritualistic grooming. It is what it is. It's part of the culture.
You're right.
It's an initiation thing into the social club. It is a part of the culture. Now, if people are dying, that's one thing. If people are getting raped and killed, like, okay, put a stop to this. But some 20-year-old men are being hazed. Who gives a shit? Seriously. I never got hazed. I didn't join a fraternity. You join a fraternity, that's what happens.
Adam Barr, are you related to Bill Barr or Donald Barr?
As long as they're not doing anything illegal. Why are people being arrested? I don't get it. And I don't know the whole story. I just saw the video and people are freaking out. But it's like, honestly, the frat guy was such a chiller. If anything, I respected the frat leader because the cops are like interrogating him and he's giving them nothing. He's like, I don't know. They're like, call the guy that runs the frat. And he's like, we don't have his phone number. They're like, really? You don't have his phone number? He's like, nope, none of us have it. And the cop's like, well, you're not really being helpful. And the guy's like, I don't know what to tell you. So give them nothing. Give them nothing. They are agents of the government. They are there to put you in trouble, okay? They did it to me. You saw it. That's your little bag of tricks. Don't talk to the cops. You have rights. Fifth Amendment.
Yeah, you don't talk to the cops. They have a fucking job, and you don't need to do it for them. Let them earn their fucking money. They can stumble along on their own without your help, and you damn sure don't give them the rope to hang you with. I mean, come on. You don't give people the rope to hang you with.
Don't work against yourself. People think I'm so cynical about that. People think that the cops are there to help you, and sometimes they are. But if they're asking you questions, they're not. They're actually there to hurt you. And they try to tell you, well, if you cooperate, it'll get better. It never gets better. So, yeah, so that was crazy. And it's crazy to see all the people that were criticizing that. Who really cares?
USMC Grower percent $20. Did you see Candace mispronounce the word anecdote? This is what happens when Big Dictionary goes woke. Anecdote.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know how that's even possible. I don't know how you even get that far in your career. And at this point, it's such a long list. I was talking to some buddies of mine. It's like, we all have one or two words that we mispronounce. It happens. We all have one or two words that, for whatever reason, we have just habitually said it the wrong way our entire lives. And it is what it is. You're waiting for someone to correct you. And I've had a few of those. But for her, it's like every other word, Let's go down the list. Reminiscent. Satiate. Architecture. What else is there? Compartmentalize. Legitimatize.
Dude.
Green beret.
You're punching down here, Nick. I don't think this is... It's one thing to have a lark, it's kind of a lark just to chuckle about it here and there. But you like making this a bit. I think it's kind of gauche, man.
Debacle, not debacle. Debacle.
I think this is beneath
debacle. Him. Anecdote, not an anecdote, an anecdote. I mean, this is like a long list now.
He won't be doing
That's
this
a lot
at
of
40.
words to mess up.
I can assure you.
Debacle? You never heard the word debacle before. You never heard the word reminiscent. I'm reminiscing. She goes, reminiscent, debacle, anecdote. It's like, dude, that's a lot of words. Someone says Nick can't say homogenous. Heard him butcher that 100 times. No, homogeneous is a different word with a different definition. Stupid.
I hear people.
Oh yeah, just like fill me up with that. Oh wait, pause. I don't know what I'm going for with that. But
he's
more
called
of
it
that,
out a couple times where somebody uses diffuse, but they put defuse in the super chat. I seen him call it out once, and I seen it a second time that he didn't call out, and I was thinking, that's crazy. People, the words look the same and they don't know the difference, or they're trying to sound smart, so they use the other word thinking they're the same. It's like, man, if I'm not 100% sure I know something, I'm not speaking up.
Yes. Fill up my cup. My cup
it's
overfloweth with
sit
this.
Back and keep your eyes open.
He can't say homogenous. Yeah, that's because homogenous. I'm so glad you brought that up.
And have your
homogenous is referring to mixtures and solutions. Homogeneous is referring to something that is uniformly the same. But okay. If you're talking about a homogeneous country, you're talking about a country that's
just a bit
uniform
much.
Demographically. If you're talking about salt mixed into water, that is a homogeneous solution.
For sure,
okay,
Stormberg.
That's the difference,
I agree.
Dumbass. Nice try, pal. PP Nickel Nuts in the chat. Fuck you. Nick can't say, heard him butcher that 100 times. You don't even know what you're talking about. You don't even know what you're talking about. Go back to school, bitch. There's a difference. Google it. Try Googling it. It's free. You have been using homogenous wrong your entire life. You just got Candace.
You like that?
So no, completely different.
I don't punch down, huh?
Different words.
Grand designs. I think I've heard you say that before.
So anyway, he tried it.
Texan
he tried it. He failed. Oh, grandiose. Burrow. She said grandiose. Instead of saying grandiose, she said grandiose. That's not even how it's spelled. Some sort of grandiose. I have delusions of grandiosity. I have delusions. Candace is suffering from delusions of grandiosity. I went to Grandoise City and everybody knew you. Grandoise. That's crazy. What was the other one? Bureau. Federal Bureau of Investigations.
You know, it's funny. I have family in Michigan.
That's a lot.
And I remember them busting my balls when I said bury. Like, yeah, go outside and bury that shit in the ground. They're like, bury? Who the fuck? What is that even a word? I'm like, dude, look it up, you fucking chud. Like, dude, it has two pronunciations, bury or bury. And if anything, berry, bro, what is it? A fucking fruit on a bush? Like, I mean, it's just, I think it's kind of gauche busting people's balls over stuff like that. That's all.
To fuck up. We all have, let's be charitable. There's always one or another words that we use in the wrong way or that we mispronounce. It's a big language. There's a lot of words. You say a lot of words, you're going to get a few wrong. But that's a lot of words, and those are some basic ones. Bureau? How do you get bureau wrong?
It's a weird word. It's a French word. It's like beau.
Grandiose?
I will say this. I misspell bureau, or seems like I always have to look that fucking word up. Bureau. Always. Or there's a couple others that are like beau, bureau. There's a couple others that always trip me up, man. I don't, something about those French words. It's like, where the fuck does the U and the A go? It's a bitch. I don't like it.
Spell it out. I mean, seriously, spell it out. Oh, man. Debacle? Oh, you wonder, how do you even, you know what it is, though? Do you know what that tells you? It means that she is just dumb. Because she has heard those words pronounced correctly, but she just can't memorize it. She has heard all of those words pronounced correctly, but she just can't remember. Like, she's either not paying attention or not remembering, but like, that's an IQ thing. The reason high IQ people have a big vocabulary is because they have that recall, the memory, neural pathways. It's a sign of low IQ to just get it wrong like
Texan
that.
Taylor sent $100. Kinda crazy they tried to destroy you when you were 18. You were a literal child.
I know. I was a literal baby. I was 17 when I started my first show. I was a literal child. And yeah, it's just, honestly, I'm kind of a child now. You know, why is everybody attacking this 27-year-old child? You know? 27 is still, I still feel kind of childlike at heart.
But you don't get
really
to
say that I
fucking
can
use
consent?
it as an excuse, Nick.
Why is this 27-year-old child being attacked and arrested
give you
for
a
battery?
pass on it. Don't expect a pass,
can I pay you in blocks?
That's
can I pay
so
my battery
fucking
fine?
whack,
Can I pay
man.
for your phone in
It's
blocks?
beneath you.
I'm just a little baby. Can I pay for your phone in blocks? So yeah, I mean, seriously, why am I being held accountable for my actions?
Samuel Ray sent $25. Theo talks about you with Dave Smith on Theo's show. 2:51 and 35 seconds. This was a few weeks ago, so maybe you have seen it. Theo collab imminent.
I did see that, but he didn't invite me on the show. So.
Generic Groyper sent $20. If you ever encounter anyone named Clavicular Groyper, do not trust him. Hasaji.
Okay, good to know.
Drew Mitchener sent $20. Yo, little chud, your take on left lane driving the other night is completely wrong. Left lane is for passing, not to go fast. The fact someone was passing you on the right makes you the asshole. Hit the bench press, you wop, we love you, happy Ash Wednesday, Latin cross emoji.
Okay, but if you're passing somebody, then you're going faster than them. Hello? If someone in the left lane is going slower than you, then they're not passing you. Do you even understand what you're saying? If you're going faster than everybody on the road, then you need to be in the left lane, because you're just going to be passing everybody. If you're going 100 miles an hour, you're in the left lane because you're just passing everybody that's on the road. You know, the cars are just going by in your rearview mirror. And if you're not going 100 miles an hour, then you need to be in the right lane. Because somebody is going 100 miles an hour. So you can't be passing if you're not the fastest. Duh. But anyway, so I don't think you understand what that really is. Or I don't know, maybe you're just not from here.
Based AF sent $25. Or maxing in my Epstein quarter zip tomorrow. Such quality, very impressed. I feel like a billionaire in this thing. Cool face emoji.
I'm glad you like it. Thank you. Yeah, that's totally insane. You know, the left lane is for the fastest driver. You know?
No shit.
Zoop Sains Groy sent $20.
Bro.
Greetings, Nicholas. Did you hear about the great Richard Spencer fattening?
It's
He needs to look
kindergarten
max
shit.
ASAP.
He has been getting
Only
the mushroom Swiss at a number of
don't
different
do
places,
that.
is what I've heard. Yeah. Yeah. Richard, come on now. Come on now. What are we, bulking? The bulk has gone too far. I'm just going to assume he's bulking, okay? And we're just waiting for a little cut.
Christ is King 444 sent $25. Crowder had a fantastic monologue today about unbearable whites and anti-white racism. W. Crowder, or is he pandering lately? Happy Land, you should give up super chats.
I'm considering it. Yeah, Crowder's been really excellent. He said something the other day about how white people need to stick together. Beautiful. He's been really on point.
Canadian chat sent $20. Your message is so spot on that even as a Canadian I'd take a bullet for you. One critique of the show is that you'll spend hours dogging Trump, but then your outro is still him saying America first.
Yeah, we got to change the song at this point, probably.
Trick Stink sent $20. Trick Stink sent $20. Was Joel saying that Noah's son slept with his mom completely out of left field, or was that just me?
You're talking about the Joel Webben collab? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he has this theory that the races were created because of this, like, I don't know. There's like other people in the beginning of the genealogy that we have to infer the existence of. And I don't, here's the thing, like, I don't need to go back to the book. Like, there's clearly black people and white people. You know what I mean? So he's like, well, and I don't know what that theory is. That's the first time I had ever heard it, but we were talking about it, and he's like, yeah, so, at the beginning of humankind, like there's some other part of the genealogy that's missing, and that's why there are races. And I'm like, I know there's races because I've met them. And they're obviously distinct.
Gail Bra sent $20. I'm not going to dox the poor guy, but the Valentine's fag who got his girl stole by Clav and started crying has both a Jewish first name and Jewish last name. He's commenting on all the videos of the incident on his main account asking if he mugged.
Really?
It just gets better and better.
Wow. No, is that real? He doesn't look Jewish, though.
Yeah, he had a
I don't know. I guess he kind of looks Jewish. I didn't get a good look.
But you know something? That chick was a dog anyway. I don't even know what the hell Clav was doing talking to that Sluter. Bro, I would not have even paid that. I would not have even double taken her because, first of all, she was mid at best. She had a loser of a boyfriend, and she's a Sluter. She freaking shrugged her year-long relationship off like that. I would have been like, I'm sorry, but you don't deserve my attention. The girl was beneath Clav, and I get it, he's young trying to sow his oats, but you know something, having to having to, or not being able to pass on sex, that's not something to be proud of. My brother was that way. Never turned down a piece of ass in my life. Yo, let me get some dap. Like, bro, are you really bragging about that right now? That is, man, like, you must really have self-esteem issues, because he did actually.
Well, that complicates things. Because if the guy's Jewish,
you think that
then
was
that's
staged?
A W.
You're right.
It is racial.
Well,
okay, it is racial. So if a white guy's taking a Jewish guy's girl, that's a W.
Not really.
But we don't know that. Okay, let's not make any assumptions.
That chick would have left that kid
Sometimes
anyway,
that could be deceptive. Sometimes the guy's just German. A lot of Jews have German names.
Yeah,
and
my
sometimes,
cousin,
you have a Jewish sounding name.
My cousin, his name was Schwartz, but that's German for black. Even though it is very much so, a lot of Jewish people have that name, like in Spaceballs. But his father was his grandfather was adopted.
German.
So very German looking though, too.
So let's be careful. We don't want any friendly fire, but that would be really funny if that were true.
Lofen sent $22.
That's revenge for the club of cost.
Lofen sent $22. Been infiltrating the local GOP for about 5 years now. You have to have an infinite ability to suffer fools.
Well, that's just life, okay? That's the show. That's your life. That's my life. That's just life. What do you think I do? What do you think this is? I'm infiltrating the GOP, but I have to talk to all these dummies. Okay, what do you think I do every single day? What do you think I'm doing all the time? That's just life. That is everybody's waking existence.
Roy Perchade sent $20. Have you squashed your beef with Josiah and Isabella Moody yet? It seems like they were pretty pivotal in helping Clavicular get out of jail in Arizona.
Yeah, this motherfucker said that same thing yesterday.
Hi, Nick. Dr. Richard Wood says obstetric ultrasound fry maxes baby grow per brains. Don't autism max AF children. Say no to sonogram maxing and gender reveal mogging to decrease autism risk by 8 times. At Say No to Sono 5061 on YouTube. Thanks.
You keep promoting that. I don't know if I believe that. Sounds crazy to
Jenna
me.
Maroney sent $50. I'm in Minneapolis and today I had to fend off a porch pirate while I was home alone with my 2 toddlers. Mentioned it to my husband's family and no one expressed any empathy. One literally said better a package get stolen than your neighbor. People truly are demented. I want to make millions so I can give every cent to AF and get our country back.
That's actually unbelievable. How does that even happen? You shouldn't mess with the porch pirates if you're like a woman with your kids, but
seriously, because if
that kind of stuff just drives me crazy.
If they realize you're home alone, they may fucking rape you and just take your everything. Because
no one cares. Nobody cares.
If you're alone and a woman.
The other day, I was driving into the city, and I'm on 290, and I'm going to Ida B. Wells. You know how it is, and I see this black woman driving on the highway. She opens her window, throws all her garbage out the window, and then she goes like this out the window.
What the fuck?
Animals. People are animals.
They're,
she throws all her garbage out the window like it's a garbage can. Then she goes like this. And I pulled up right next to her and I just shook my head. I just gave her the most disapproving. I just said, seriously.
well, you got to understand, black people,
and it's because nobody
African
cares. These
people,
fucking animals.
It's not that they don't care. Their way of life. Does a tree come down and sweep its own leaves? Honest question. Do trees come down and sweep their own fucking leaves? No, they don't. They don't. Same thing with Indians. Do you think Indians picked up or cleaned up after themselves? People that live in concert with nature, that are a part of nature, they have a way of life. And when, it's not their fault modernity came about, because, when you eat a banana, you just throw the banana peel on the ground and your goats eat it. Okay. Africans, they didn't go through 2,000 years of modernization. They lived in nature like American Indians. And